So say you found a skeleton. How would you tell it's a dinosaur? You personally, how would you decide?
Well, interesting question. I don't know. I'd have to do some research on that.
All right, everybody, welcome back for Kent with Bent 37, Kent's Brain. And the first person I noticed to get that reference, by the way, was RJM Truth. So RJM Truth, send me an email and I will send to your location 3 strips of gold pressed latinum, and you have 3 choices. You can get a bottle of Klingon blood wine, a bottle of Kanar, or a nip bottle of Romulan ale. Sorry for the small quantity of Romulan ale, but it's illegal, so what are you going to do? So there you go. Anyway, I am here with Bent Hovind, as always. Say hello, Bent.
Hey everyone, how are you doing?
All right. And I'm also here with our friend who has gone by numerous names. I'm just going to call him Legs, because his legs are the size of most people's whole bodies.
It's true. How is everyone doing?
All right. Well, I think everyone is doing pretty well. Oh, Monk Mayfair bids 40 quatlus for the Romulan ale. I see that bet, and I raise you 10 quatlus with a side bet of 20 quatlus on the outsiders to win. Or, sorry, newcomers. Anyway, yeah, so now that we're done being extremely nerdy, I have a really good feeling that today we're going to finish Seminar 7 and be done with this seminar series. I feel like it's taken us like 8 years, but part of that is just because we've done most of it during 2020. So, we only have about 40 minutes left on this video, but the thing is, at the end of all his videos, he just starts preaching, and I don't care about that, so we're not going to show it. So we probably only really have closer to half an hour.
Okay.
Okay. Have I done being Kent Hovind yet? No, I don't think I have. That could be good. Anyway, so, I think we'll just jump in right into the rules for the drinking game if you choose to play along, which, by the way, we do not encourage that you do, nor do we take any responsibility for any kind of liver damage, brain damage, death, dismemberments, homicidal rages, any of those things. All on you. No, we're not taking responsibility for any of that. Participate at your own risk. However, the rules are, we drink whenever Kent Hovind says something right, that he got right on his own. He didn't have to quote someone. We also drink whenever Kent Hovind tells a joke that just doesn't work. It's, yeah, which is almost all of his jokes. We also take a drink whenever Kent Hovind says something so stupid that we just kind of have to. We also take a drink whenever we get a visit in various formats by one of the kaiju. Which was actually, that was 2 visits, so we're going to take a couple sips here. Those will be all our inaugural drinks. Now, I know a few people know how to trigger those. I can take that privilege away if you abuse it, so if you decide to trigger those, do it in an amount that I don't find medically troublesome. That's what I guess.
Proper trigger discipline.
Exactly. All right, so what we're going to do now... Oh, and we already have a super chat for $4.99 from Robert Birkinson. Our blood has more in common with that of pigs than it does with apes. So what? Are evolutionists going to start saying we evolved from pigs? I would need a citation on that, Robert Birkinson.
So some context on what is meant by in common.
Yeah. So you know what? If you have a citation, feel free to link it in the chat. You can add me. Try also adding like TD Lane or Bent Hovind or one of my other mods, so that way they can make sure that I get that citation. Links, I believe, are disabled, so if you can just name the paper, the authors, and the journal, and maybe the year, that should be sufficient. So there you go.
Actually,
I thought I was an ape, so...
I mean, there is that.
I don't understand.
Humans do have identical blood to apes, being apes.
Yeah.
that's
I don't... But maybe he's talking about dinosaurs, because you're the dapper dinosaur.
Well, yeah, dinosaurs and humans actually have very different blood.
Yeah.
Do you know that dinosaur red blood cells are nucleated?
Really?
That is odd.
I probably knew that, and I forgot.
Yeah, it's true. All right, well, let us continue with Kent Hovind. In case anyone doesn't remember, we had just finished with Kent Hovind being asked about Bigfoot, and then him going on a ramble about the Nephilim, and then not actually talking about Bigfoot that whole time. And also, this is a question he asked himself.
So he's had dementia for a while. Okay.
Yeah. So, give me a second here while I resize this window for my convenience. And here we go.
Maybe that's what it is. You study it for yourself. Next question. What about UFOs, unidentified flying objects? What are they?
How many people ask Kent that question?
Probably more than 0.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
I guess the kind of people that are asking Kent Hovind questions are probably the ones that aren't so sure about UFOs.
I assume that they're referring to either what ramifications alien life existing would have on creation, or the idea of like panspermia from aliens. Like,
no,
they've heard like that. I guess that
the people who talk with Kent as his followers could never ask a question that smart.
Hey, you were one of his followers at one point.
Yeah, and then I learned about the idea of panspermia and other things, and I started learning about astronomy. So it wasn't the first thing I learned about it. Anyway, no, I lost my train of thought. But no, I don't think those people are asking Kent those types of questions. They're saying, "Hey, my sister saw a UFO," and I said, "I don't think that's real, but we should ask Pastor Kent." You know, those are the kind of people.
I saw a UFO. That's one of those things that not a lot of people know, but I've seen a thing in the sky that didn't look like any of the things I'm familiar with.
Yeah, but do you go ask a pastor about it?
I didn't ask anyone, because what do I care?
And I
also,
not that kind of person.
Right, I also don't use it as the basis for believing that aliens are visiting, because that's probably the least likely explanation.
I mean, I grew up on a research Air Force base, so I saw all sorts of aircraft that you typically don't see in the air. I also didn't conclude, even the ones I didn't recognize, I was like, that must be aliens. Like, no.
Oh wait, I just realized I forgot to read the emojis from the super chat. So there was a crying, laughing face, pig, and a monkey emoji, which are actually all. I really like that monkey emoji.
He does seem very curious, Georgie.
All right, let's get a little more Kent Hovind in.
I don't know, and I'm not sure how it ties into creation, but since I get asked that every week, I'll tell you my humble, totally unbiased thoughts on the topic, okay? What are the UFOs, unidentified flying objects? I like that picture, took off his glasses. I have been to New Mexico, to the UFO Museum several times. Every time I go through that area and preach, I stop in and see the UFO Museum. It's pretty interesting. It's a huge place with all kinds of interesting stuff and hundreds of books that have been written about UFOs. Gulf Breeze, right down here, 6 miles away, is famous for its UFO sightings. So, what are the UFOs?
You guys are seeing a static Kent.
Yo.
That should fix it. Sorry about that.
There have been many.
All right, we'll just do this then. I don't know. Discord is being weird today. It wants to save my system resources.
Why?
Christian books written on the topic and many heathen books written on the topic. We have these two, UFO, End Time Delusion, and a kind of Reader's Digest smaller version by the same author, condensing the information, UFO 666. There's a great book by Chuck Missler again called Alien Encounters, if you want to read his theory on UFOs. And he's one of the smartest guys I know. I asked Chuck Missler a few months ago when I was preaching out there at a conference with him, I said, Dr. Missler, what really happened at Roswell, New Mexico? What is the truth about this? The UFO crash site. He said, Brother Hovind, I don't know for sure, and nobody who knows is talking, but exactly 9 months later, Al Gore was born.
Oh, that was a drink. That was a joke. You get a drink for the joke.
I heard a very quiet chuckle, but I'll drink to it.
Wait, from whom? Who would chuckle at such a thing? Was it
his cameraman?
Oh, was it the cameraman? Okay.
That's a very unflattering picture.
It couldn't even been Kent. It was pretty quiet, but I don't think it was any of us.
Okay. Just say legs. Come on.
No, but I did find out that I guess what Robert Berkinson is probably referring to is that pig blood, or porcine blood in general, does have a similar ABO grouping as humans. So it is a good candidate for xenotransfusion, but I haven't found anything that it's more, quote, more similar than ape blood.
Well, I mean, if you're looking for sources for xenotransfusions of blood, I mean, other apes are not going to be a good candidate because you just don't have that many of them. But my goodness, there are a lot of pigs out there. So yes. I mean, availability is going to have to be a thing. So here's one of the things about there are a lot of interesting similarities between, say, genus Sus and genus Homo. They have similar diets and usually broadly similar body masses. So they tend to have similarly sized organs in a lot of cases, and they have a lot of similar biochemical activity going on, just because of that fact.
I mean,
they're
one
not.
can stand-
Sorry, go ahead.
I would say, like, one could reason that any sufficiently large omnivore would you probably find something similar, like bears.
I mean, bears are a lot bigger, but yeah. All right, so here we go. Let's get a little more Kent in.
What happened? I don't know, that'll preach, but Stan Deo has a good book. He lives in Colorado Springs. Stan Deo's book about the cosmic conspiracy is real good on the topic. He says it's using a little understood form of propulsion called electrogravitic propulsion.
And we have for $4.99 dues a super chat from Ian Chen, longtime friend of the channel. He says, "It's been a while, so just saying good day." Well, good day, Ian. It is always wonderful to have you here.
And I mentioned this in a seminar years ago, and a guy came to me and he said, "Brother Hovind, I work for the government, and how do you know about electrogravitic propulsion? That's top secret." I said, "I read a book about it. I'm sorry, you know." That's the book if you want to read it. Still available from millennium-arc.net. So,
okay, I've never held a top secret security clearance, but I think everyone in this room has held a secret security clearance.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes.
If you heard someone saying something that was secret, would you go up to them and say, "Hey, that's secret"?
No, you would be confirming something that they should know. Like I don't. It basically sounds like
That's
either
not why I wouldn't go up to them and say that. I just wouldn't care.
Well, I mean, fair enough. But if you did, it would actually be a security breach. You're not allowed to tell someone that something is top secret or secret, even if they know it, because they're not supposed to know that it's classified. Because then that confirms that that's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's a rule.
It sounds like Kent has watched too many movies.
Yeah. Kent, and lies
That's
too much.
Green Mile,
Oh my goodness.
which is a great movie.
It is a great movie, but my
Just
goodness.
ask him.
Yeah. He goes over it a lot. Alright, here we go.
round airplanes have been made for years. This is the XF-5U, which flew very well, but during World War II at the end. But they invented jet engines and they kind of became obsolete. Here's the A-15. The Russians had a similar one called the A-16, a round airplane, a frisbee, okay? The V-173 flew just fine. So there are several theories about UFOs. Let me just give them to you. Since I don't know, I'll tell you what you can study for yourself. One theory says there.
All right, we have a $4.99 super chat from Robert Birkinson. He says, "I can refute evolution. If evolution is true, then why are there dragon legends that sound like dinosaurs living with humans thousands of years ago?" One, none of the dragon legends actually sound much like dragons, except in the vaguest possible way. And two, a legend about that sounds vaguely like a thing doesn't mean that people vaguely saw the thing. Also, three, fossils. It's not like it wasn't until the 1800s that fossils started coming. People have been finding fossils all through history, and if you saw a big skull with big, sharp, pointy teeth, you might make a myth about it. There you go. Also, even if dragon legends were based on extant, non-avian, late surviving dinosaurs, or even not extant, just late surviving dinosaurs that were in historical periods, that wouldn't refute evolution. Evolution doesn't say that the dinosaurs had to go extinct. Also, for 501 US, Bent Hoven says, "Let's keep this train rolling" with a Godzilla emoji, which means we drink.
Drink.
It's true. Also, there are, I mean, like, just look at other mythological creatures like unicorns.
Yeah, it's not evidence of horses with horns. Although, to be fair, legends of unicorns are probably actually based on actual Indian rhinoceri. So, you know. But, yeah. But Robert Birkinson, you're going to have to bring it a lot harder than dinosaur dragon myths to refute evolution. But hey, good luck, buddy.
All misidentified. Somebody saw a weather balloon, swamp gas, a mirage, too much vodka, whatever, okay? Second theory says they're top secret or government or private experiments. The third theory says they're satanic or demonic.
Okay, hold up.
Wait.
So I just want to say, I like how that's our next theory, is satanic or demonic. Okay, sure, maybe. But I also want to read off a couple new super chats that we just got in. $1.99 US from from Scott Duke, who says, "I want an elephant-sized turtle." Well, man, you're gonna want to get yourself an Archelon, which was a turtle at, well, I was gonna say at the end Cretaceous, but it didn't quite make it all the way to the end of the Cretaceous. So, you know, it made it to, I think, about 80 million years.
Well, I think we need to up our game here and want a lion turtle from the Avatar universe that can bestow bending.
Oh, there you go. And for $3.99 US from Dave Dalafiore, we have drink, but keep it secret. I cannot confirm or deny whether or not I will drink for that. Oh, hey, and Megan Fox Giant Boob says that the first paragraph in the Wikipedia article on non-human blood types states that the antigens from the ABO system are found in apes and old world monkeys. It's cited in everything. Oh, there's a surprise. Are they found in pigs? I'm going to go ahead and guess no.
It's not from what I read, and I did read it briefly, I confess, it seems to be a similar co-dominant ABO system, but it's not the same antigens.
I mean, I'm sure that the actual proteins involved are going to be somewhat different.
Yeah.
But, all right, let's hear about demons. Demon UFOs. Which, by the way, I do agree that the secret military plane and the natural phenomena are reasonably likely candidates.
See, God is all places. Satan can only be one place.
Okay.
So he flies a UFO, according to that third theory. Okay, he has to be able to get around quickly. If they travel with electrogravitic propulsion, then there would be no G-force.
Well, that's dumb. Drink.
Yeah, what?
Yeah. So electrogravitic propulsion, the only thing I can think that would even mean is that you're using some kind of magnetic force to propel yourself. While that might make for easy acceleration, including direction changes, it's not going to eliminate momentum. Momentum is still a thing, Kent.
Like G-forces are essentially just acceleration.
Yeah.
Because every molecule is being drawn electrically. So the craft could go from 0 to 5,000 and stop on a dime, and the people inside would not be bouncing around. No G-force. People describe the UFOs as, up, down, right, left, zip, 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 things that would kill a person inside a regular plane.
Liquefy, so sure.
I mean, if the inertial dampers were working, it'd be fine.
But what if the helm's not responding?
Well, that could be bad.
By the way, the helm's not responding is actually, I think it's our only consistent drink rule for watching Star Trek. Because my goodness, is that helm stop responding at the drop of a hat.
Yeah.
But you know what never breaks is the gravity. The gravity, that life support could be failing, the helm could be not responding, the computer core could be on fire, but gosh darn it, if those gravity plates aren't working like it should.
They're always powered.
Oh, and then Dave Dalafiore says, does it go through the firmament? The UFOs. Well,
how did the UFOs get through the ice shield back then?
I don't know.
Yeah, did Satan need to take a UFO down to the garden? And yeah, wouldn't he have had to punch through the ice canopy? These are questions that I want to know the answer to, Kent. All right, maybe he'll give them. Let's find out.
Pilots black out with too much G-force. The fourth theory says they're alien life from other planets. Now, the Bible says Eve's the mother of all living, so I have a hard time believing there's life on other planets. I think there's angels out there, seraphim, cherubim, if you mean life outside of Earth, then that I would agree with. But as far as other, living beings outside of that, I don't believe there's any life anywhere else. Next question. How long were they in the Garden of Eden before they sinned? The Bible says Adam was 130 when a son was born. Before that, Cain and Abel were born, but the dates aren't given because they're not in the line to Jesus Christ. So I think they could have been in the garden 100 years. I don't know, but I don't think they sinned the first 30 seconds. At the end of day...
Why not 1,000 years? Why not 10,000? I guess because 130. Okay, fair enough. No, I get it. That's actually not an unreasonable inference. Okay, fine.
6, God said everything was very good. Adam and Eve had not sinned yet, and Satan had not fallen yet. It's not logical to say Satan fell before the 6th day of creation, because God said everything was very good. But God drove man out and put him at the east of the Garden of Eden and put some angels and cherubims there and says, don't come back. So I don't think they were in the...
Uh-oh, I got called out. Monk Mayfair points out, Dapper Dino, gravity plating does go offline in Enterprise. It also does go offline in Star Trek 6. So there are some instances where gravity plating goes off, but it's almost always... It's either a part of the integral to the plot, like the whole murder mystery surrounding Star Trek 6. It was important the gravity plating go off, and also in Enterprise, it was just for a laugh. But even in Enterprise, when the ship is almost destroyed, gravity's working just fine. It's like the gravity plating has its own reactor or something. I don't know.
Well, the gravity plating always seems to when it fails in isolated areas.
Yeah.
Like, oh, in this section or on the holodeck or whatever.
Or oh hey, it failed in the captain's shower, so we get to use our cool new special effects from the mid '90s to show water droplets floating around in the shower, captain's shower.
It was a cool effect.
It was a cool effect. I mean, I'll grant it. Here we go.
Garden of Eden, it had to be out before Cain and Abel were born, and before Seth was born, so it could have been 100 years. There's no way to tell. But certainly sometime after day 7, before 100 years, I'm just picking that as a number, they were in the Garden of Eden. Okay? What about the Mark of the Beast? We'll cover much more on this on our college class, CSE 200 series, but
that's our next thing, by the way, is the college class. So strap in for that one.
The Bible says they're going to receive a mark in their right hand or forehead, and you cannot buy or sell without this mark. I have studied this a lot. I'm sure no expert, but I believe we've already got it available today, this little microchip, about the size of a grain of rice, that's been developed for 20 years now. They've been 15 or 20 years they've been using this. Dean Martin, some of you might have been here when Dean lives right here in town, came to speak to our staff about the microchip. He took one of these little chips, put it under his arm, and walked past his laptop computer, which had a little sensor built into it. Are you here for that, Diane? And up on the screen flashed his name, address, phone number, social security number, birth date. The chip doesn't store any of that. The chip stores a code that triggers the computer to find all that. Technology is already here to make a little chip that's just a transponder. A radio frequency goes out, energizes the chip, which has no battery. The antenna picks up the energy and sends back, here's my number. I am number, 32.
Hey, that's actually a reasonably accurate description, so I'm going to drink for that.
Yeah, I think it's my understanding of how RFID chips work.
It is, yeah. The radio, it's true that the radio wave goes out. As we all know, that induces a voltage in the circuitry of the chip, which then allows it to transmit, because I'm sure Bent remembers all about electrical theory.
Oh, enough of it.
Electrons are our friends.
And then that allows the chip to actually transmit an ID tag, which can then be looked up in a database. Yeah, that's how RFID works. So you know what? Good job, Kent. And $5 from Vandalia in 1998, who says 100 years and they never ate the live forever fruit unless they had to eat one each day for it to work. I mean, maybe that's how it works. You gotta.
I thought that fruit was the tree of knowledge, not the live of fruit.
The tree of knowledge and the tree of life were different trees.
Right, but why wouldn't they be eating from the tree of life? Like, because the sin was eating from the tree of knowledge, right?
Right, and he's saying that they never ate from the live forever tree because then they ended up dying.
Yeah, I just misread that. My apologies.
Legs is bad at jokes.
I'm bad at reading.
Jokes.
I'm bad at both.
All right.
Robert Berkinson says something about you need to provide fossil evidence of the evolved coelacanth.
Coelacanth. Hey, I'll tell you what. I'll quickly address it. I'm not going to address too much of the side chat debate, which it's okay if we have a polite side chat debate. But find a fossil coelacanth that's identical to either living species. You can't.
Whoa.
5C95, whatever. Exxon gas station, you can buy these called Speed Pass. You walk up, pump your gas, touch the pump, get in your car, and drive off. McDonald's is doing this.
Speed Pass is Satan, confirmed.
You carry a little chip on a keychain. You walk up, touch the McDonald's cash register, pay for your food. Anybody ever seen that before? It's been available for 5 or 6 years. Okay. This article came out in CNN. Is human chip implant wave of the future? Years ago, people have been putting chips in themselves to activate their whole house. Kevin Warwick's really big on this. When he walks into the room, the light comes on. His whole house is computerized, and it's all based on a chip that he's got in his arm. So, it can be done. Hitachi Corporation developed a new Mu chip, which only holds 128 bits. So that's the size of it right there. 0.4 millimeters. You can put it inside a piece of paper and not find it. There's a family in Florida a couple years ago was real proud of themselves. They put microchips in because they have health problems. And in case they get, hurt in an accident, they can scan their body and find out, oh, this is George, he's got hemophilia, whatever, There's a little chip there.
Emergency medical help is now Satan, too. Man.
You can see
Right,
the
you're supposed
antenna,
to pray
which
yourself
was
to healing.
Between trying to give humanity knowledge and save them from dying an unnecessary death, Satan doesn't seem so bad.
Yeah, I know. If this is if this is what Satan's got in store for us, it's like, not such a bad guy, actually. It's like, let me save you from otherwise preventable causes, and also make it easier for you to turn on appliances in your house and get food. Okay, sure. I guess that's the master evil plan from Satan. Thanks, Satan? I don't know.
receives the radio signal. That signal energizes the antenna, which activates it to send back its signal. It gets its energy from an outside source. Well, Carl Sanders has a whole bunch of stuff
You got
on
that
this
right again. I'm gonna
microchip
drink for it.
technology. You can get a hold of him in Arkansas if you want. Put his website up here. But as far as using money, the Bible says the love of money, root of all evil. This microchip technology is going to be used to develop one world currency. All cash is going to become obsolete. You're going to have a chip in your hand or in your forehead, or you cannot buy or sell. And we are racing toward that technology, racing toward that reality right now. I don't know how much longer it's going to be, but I'll be surprised if we go 5 more years.
Okay.
If you go 5 more years?
Well, this is before he went to jail. And he was in jail for 9 years, and this was, I believe, a few years before he went to jail. So I think it's been at least a decade since this. So you know what? Maybe I'll call him and say, hey, Kent, how surprised are you that we don't have to pay for and buy everything with a chip in our foreheads or hands? What's the deal?
Ask him how long it's going to be until he thinks that'll happen. I bet he says 5 years.
You said it was 5 years, 12 years ago. And for
I bet he says 5 years all the time for that.
It's like the joke, fusion is 50 years away and always will be.
Yeah. Also, Dave Delafiore for $2.99 says, you can't prove that chip had any kids. It's true, I can't. Oh, man.
Well, he's also pointing out that, like, the love of money is the root of all evil, and then people are going to use money. It's like, well, using money doesn't mean there's a love of money.
Yeah, that is another thing. Is like, yeah, the love of money is the root of all evil in the Bible. Okay, but it doesn't say that money is. You're allowed to have and use money because, I mean, Jesus did that. Or at least his disciples did it on his behalf. He would tell them to go and buy things. You think they went and bought it without money? No. In fact, at one point, there was a miracle he performed where they found coins in a fish's mouth.
What is this, Settlers of Catan?
And Vandelli 1998 for $2 says, my credit card has a chip in it now, so Satan? Yes, credit cards are now Satan. Sorry guys. Basically everything is Satan now. Satan took over all the good stuff. I don't know what to tell you. Alright, let's get a little bit more Kent in.
Without cash, credit cards, everything being eliminated, you have to have a chip. I don't think there's going to be a grand moment when Christians can stand up and say, you're not giving me that chip, you know, I'm going to go stand up for God. It's just going to be a simple matter of you get slowly choked out of society. Well, you just can't buy here.
I mean, the Amish do
Okay,
fine.
sorry, we don't take cash. We don't take credit cards. We don't take.
Well.
All we take is you got to have a chip.
Gotta have a chip.
It's going to solve a lot of problems and create a lot of problems.
Well, right now we need chips in most places to pay with a card, but it's a chip in the card, not in your hand. And also,
on your hand or your forehead.
Right, and also cash is allowed pretty much everywhere. I don't know of too many cashless businesses, although I do know of some still cash-only businesses.
And there's chips like in phones. I mean, the chip like RFID chips have uses other than transactions.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So I think we can say that Kent made a testable prediction, and he failed at that prediction. Time to
But he loves science, though.
He does love science. Well, that means he must have, changed his mind about the whole RFID thing. So I'm sure if we were to call him,
come on.
I mean, if he admitted he was wrong, that still would allow him to maybe be considered a good scientist, or at least one with integrity. But
I'm just saying this. I don't know if he's changed his mind, but I don't suggest that everyone go call him at 855 Big Dino Extension 3 and ask. I don't suggest that.
I do not suggest that.
Which ties in probably to the HAARP technology, High Altitude Aurora Research Project, HAARP. They've been doing research
he
for
got
years,
the acronym right.
trying to
Take a
use
drink.
the high aurora, the aurora, where the northern lights are, to control weather. There's a lot of folks and a lot of stuff on the internet thinking that probably these hurricanes in the last couple of years have been controlled deliberately. By sending up microwave frequencies, they can heat up a section of the sky and make a virtual lens, and then therefore use the sun's light coming through that lens to heat up the ground, like you burn ants with your magnifying glass, you know. High altitude aurora research project. They can make a virtual mirror with this stuff. How much is real? I don't know. It's an interesting study. They use ELF, extra low frequency, and you can get into all that if you'd like. There's been a ton of research done on this, and there's a lot of strange things up in Alaska and up around the North Pole that apparently are for this purpose. They drill a hole in the ground. Everything seems to be below ground, probably for multiple reasons.
Yeah, and the reason is to monitor the auroras and weather. That's the reason. It's in the name.
Yeah, it's a research project. Also, this is not to be confused with the AARP. It's a very different organization.
That's true. HARP and ARP, not the same. It's a good point. Yes. Yeah, it's in the name, Kent. What it does is in the name. It does what it says on the tin.
I was at a debate here recently, and somebody said, well, doesn't the Shroud of Turin prove that Jesus Christ lived on earth? Well, I don't need the Shroud of Turin to prove Jesus lived on earth, but what about the Shroud of Turin? Somebody sent me this book and said, oh, Brother Hovind, you got to read this. This is proof that Jesus was buried in the burial cloth, you know, proof of death, burial, and resurrection of Christ. Well, they say the Shroud of Turin was the cloth Jesus was buried in. Now, here's the facts about it. This is a picture of it. You can see the picture of the face, and the arms are crossed, and, you know, they say the holes in the hands where he was, you know, crucified, and holes in the feet, and you can see the beard and all this stuff. There's several real serious problems with the Shroud of Turin. They say you can see the outline of his beard and his wounds. Well, the Bible says his face was bound about with a napkin. The piece around his head was different than the piece around his body. In John chapter 20, it says, Peter went in and saw the linen.
His citations from the Bible are usually just straight word for word from the King James.
I guess it counts as quoting, so that doesn't count.
Yeah. No, yeah. We don't drink for him accurately quoting the Bible, which he almost always does, so I'm not going to. Like, I don't actually care that much if that's exactly what the Bible says, but I have no doubt that that's an accurate quotation of the King James.
Clothes lie, and the napkin about his head, not lying with the clothes, but in a place by itself. The Shroud of Turin has one cloth covering the head and the body. It's not the burial cloth of Jesus. They saw the linen clothes lie by themselves, Luke chapter 24. Isaiah prophesied that they would pluck off his hair. Well, the Shroud of Turin shows a man with a beard. He didn't have a beard. By the time he got buried, they had plucked off the hair of his cheeks, okay?
They plucked all of it off?
Yeah, I guess he's saying that they plucked all of it off. Well, okay, so here's the thing, right? Like, Kent here is arguing against the Shroud of Turin on the basis of it being inconsistent with the biblical depictions of the crucifixion and burial. And I think that's a reasonable tack to take. Like, hey, it doesn't match the descriptions we get of the condition of Jesus at the time of his burial. Instead, it looks like, you know, like a 15th century Western European icon of Jesus, which, I mean, it does. Because, spoiler alerts, that's basically what it is. Like, it's been carbon dated. It's a fake. Like, that cloth is from, like, the late medieval period, not antiquity. It's just, that's just how it is.
Is that why it looks like someone from that period?
I mean, you could probably find someone who looks somewhat like that in, like, 1st century, but yeah, it's...
You could probably find someone who looks like that in almost any century.
But it matches the art style of that time period, the late medieval period, and it's been carbon dated to that period, so... Yeah. Now, there have been some things where they said, oh, it was carbon dated in certain sections to be a bit older. And I don't remember the exact details there, but it looks like there may have been some contamination of older carbon from some other sources. I think something about, like, maybe the pigment involved in it might have used an older source or something. I don't remember exactly. Don't quote me on any of that. But yeah, basically not even the Catholic Church is really pushing the Shroud of Turin as being authentic. It's really... They haven't come out and said it's a fake, mostly because it would be... It would cause unrest among the laity, if you will. Because there are still a number of people who are big fans of it, but yeah. No.
Now, is the pigment more compatible with humans than ape mint? That's a bad joke.
And Monk Mayfair says,
All that, but
Monk Mayfair says the piece that was tested was from the 12th century, but the samples were taken from a place that looks to have been repaired. All right, well, that might be an interesting counter. Although I'll still say that I actually do think that some of these, it's inconsistent with the description of the Bible, do make it a bit dubious. Because if we're going to say that the Shroud of Turin is evidence for the Bible, it should support the Bible and not be in contradiction with it. So one of the two are going to be wrong. And if your argument is that it's helping to support the Bible, like if the Bible is your primary thing, then just go with the Shroud of Turin is wrong. So
Yeah, the Shroud of Turin failing to be an accurate, like not being having applied to Christ doesn't disprove the existence of Christ.
well, yeah, that's another thing. Like if your belief in Jesus hangs on the Shroud of Turin, I've got bad news for you. You probably don't have a great basis for it.
you don't have enough faith. Get more faith.
All right, here we go.
1 Corinthians says it's a shame for man to have long hair. This guy had long hair. At least the image does, okay? Jesus did not have long hair. He was not a Nazarite. He was from Nazareth, okay? The custom of that day was to have short hair. If the custom was to have short hair, then why did Judas have to kiss him?
Well, okay, so yes and no. Okay, so we're looking here at a number of things. We're looking at some imperial coins from Roman emperors. I can't see what is it? Maximus Thrax. I gotta look on my other screen. Gordian first and second. Okay, so all of these are a bit after the time we're talking about. At least I think they are. I don't remember my list of Roman emperors super well. But we also have a Republican Roman statue. And the thing is that none of these are representing fashion among the Jews in Judea in the 1st century. These are all Republican and later Roman imperial styles. So,
If I'm not mistaken, it seems to be citing like the dates of their rule, which is in the 3rd century.
yeah, so, well, if that big statue that we're seeing would have been before Jesus, because that's a Republican statue. You can tell because he looks like an older man. By the imperial period, all the statues of emperors and major politicians were carved as like young men in their physical peak. But yeah, what you would want to show for this kind of thing would be like images of people from, say, 1st century synagogues, or maybe funerary portraits from the 1st century in the area, not Romans from later or well earlier. Like it's not a good example. It's not like there was just this one period of time called the Bible times, and everyone dressed and looked the same during the Bible times, even if they weren't in the same culture. Like that's not a thing. So, yeah.
The times they say day in Jesus' day.
Oh, in Jesus' day. It was only around for one day.
I guess so. If the Earth was created in 6 days.
Yeah. Well, one of the problems, though, is also it's hard to find surviving 1st century synagogues because I don't know if you know about 70 AD, but it didn't go well for the Jews. It went extremely poorly.
To be fair, during that time period, very little did.
Oh, I mean, the year 70 was especially bad. Especially bad. But let's keep going and see what else we've got. Oh, come on.
Pick him out of the crowd. If Jesus had long hair, he could just say, hey, he's the long-haired guy. Go get him. No, Jesus had short hair like everybody else, okay?
Or all the other Jews had long hair. You haven't demonstrated that that's the case. I'm going to take a drink because it's a stupid argument. There we go.
So, Jesus went secretly to the feast. Nobody picked him out as unusual. He looked just like everybody else, okay? He was not a Nazarite from Numbers chapter 6. That was a vow they took not to cut their hair, shave, and all that stuff. Samson was a Nazarite. Jesus was from Nazareth.
Yeah, but the person in the Shroud of Turin doesn't have, like, you know, like, hip-length hair. I mean, that didn't look like a Nazarite either, but okay.
That's true.
Don't get the two confused, okay? It's no connection whatsoever. So the Shroud of Turin is a really old cloth. It might even be a cloth somebody was buried in. It might even be a cloth somebody who was crucified was buried in. I wouldn't argue any of that. But it's not Jesus. That's for sure. Okay.
Seems
When my
to
son
be
Eric was in Bible college, he had a teacher there that taught him the word created and made are different words, and this was used as evidence for the gap theory. Some things God created, some things God made. So I went through and searched the scriptures like you're supposed to do, and found out God made the heaven and earth, but it also says He created heaven and earth. The words are used interchangeably. He made the firmament in Genesis 1:7, but He created the firmament in Psalm 148. All through Scripture, it uses these words interchangeably, created and made. It's called Hebrew parallelism. We do the same in English. If you're going to describe something, you wouldn't use the same word twice. You wouldn't say, wow, he was huge, he was huge. You would say, wow, he was huge, he was big. You pick a new word for emphasis.
Actually, I'm going to drink because I also think that the argument of the difference between the words for create and made is kind of silly hair-splitting thing.
I mean, they were those two books were written by different authors.
Well, they were compiled from works by some of the same authors.
Are you telling me that it's possible that one author used the word created and made?
Well, it's also possible that the authors were consistent between the two books, and one author used created, another one used made, and they just both used it in the sections that were compiled into those two books. I don't actually know.
Well, that sounds reasonable. We don't do that around here.
That's true.
Created and made are used interchangeably all through Scriptures. The Bible says the Lord made the heavens, 1 Corinthians. He made the trees, but He also created the trees. He made man, He also created man. He made the land animals, made the land animals for the land, and He created animals for the land. All through Scripture, He uses them interchangeably. Some of them have them in the very same verse. In Genesis 2:4, God said, let us make man in our image, so He created man in His own image. Right in the same verse. I mean, no, it's not anything you could use to justify the gap theory or ruined creation, ruined restoration theory. The Hebrew word created is bara, and formed is yatsar, and made is asa. I'm sure I'm not pronouncing them right, I don't speak Hebrew. But here they're used all in the same verse. Isaiah 43.
Something right, he doesn't speak Hebrew.
Oh yeah, that's true. Hey, take a drink. He does not speak Hebrew, as we have seen numerous times. But then again, it seems like none of the creationists do, hence the word baraminology.
Even every one that is called by my name, for I have created him for my glory, I have formed him, yea, I have made him. Got them all in the same verse. I mean, it can't be more clear. It's talking about the same thing. I created thee, O Jacob, and he that formed thee, O Israel. I have created him for my glory, I have formed him, yea, I have made him. Again, it's for emphasis. Not enough to make a whole doctrine on. So these words, form, create, made, are used interchangeably all through Scripture. It's just simply for emphasis. So where do you take courses on creation? Well, we offer some courses on creation. There are several good people who supply materials on
Wait, is that a question?
creation. Landmark Freedom Baptist Curriculum in Florida has got some good stuff. Down there where you live, Josh, I don't know if you've been down there, Haines City, Florida, south of Orlando a little bit. They've got good stuff. Don Boys, my good friend up in Georgia, has some. Jill Whitlock, hometrainingschools.com, if you train your kids at home on stuff on creation. Charles Lynn, up in Tennessee, took my seminar and made a children's course out of it, a curriculum that you can get from him.
Is this what he's going to keep going on?
This is a question I get asked in debates all the time. Hovind, you call yourself
here we
Dr.
go.
Hovind. By the way, I rarely do that, okay?
Kent.
Rarely.
Says the Dr. Dino.
Kent. Oh, drink for Mothra.
Does Kent not know what rarely means?
Okay, so Kent Hovind has a website that is drdino.com. In every single live stream, or even just pre-recorded video that he recorded in front of his webcam that I have seen, he picks up his mug that says Dr. Kent Hovind on it and shows it proudly. Oh, drink for Godzilla. Shows it proudly to the camera, like he's Michael Scott showing you the world's best boss mug, mug that he got himself at Spencer Gifts. Like, Kent, you call yourself Dr. Hovind all the time, and you have all your sycophants trained to call you it compulsively.
And much like
You
Michael
don't
Scott,
like
he
being called
basically just
Mr. Hovind.
bought himself that thing. Like, he
Oh
didn't
yeah,
earn it.
I bet that he also. Well, I mean, if he bought it with money he earned, then maybe he earned it.
What I mean is that, like,
He didn't earn the title to go with it.
Right, that's what I mean. Like, he probably, I thought he probably legitimately bought the mug.
You don't think he stole it? He didn't find it in a store that said Dr. Kent Hovind on a mug, and then he was like, well, isn't that convenient?
Well, this is mine. It has my name on it.
I mean, it's not the worst argument. Oh, drink for Mothra, but it's not the worst argument I've ever heard. No, it was the same, part of the same one. Sorry, the Mothra one has like 3 Mothra calls, and sometimes I get tricked into thinking that the last Mothra sound is a new instance of Mothra.
Is that just the various, Mothra and the various stages of development? Like there's the larva and the pupa.
Wait a minute. Is Robert Birkinson in the chat a flat earther? Robert Birkinson, tag me and let me know if you're a flat earther. Because I really want to know. But here we go. Let's get some more Kent in.
He said he can prove the Earth is flat.
Okay. But I do have a...
Wait, he did?
He just wrote, I can prove that the Earth is flat.
Breaking news, everyone.
Oh. Is this our first flurf in chat? Alright, well, welcome to chat, man. We don't have a no flurfs rule. That's fine. You can be a flurf here. I mean, people will probably tell you reasons why you're wrong, but hey, this is one of the young Earth creationists who might not get so offended when I say that young Earth creationism is on the same level as flat Earth in terms of scientific plausibility.
Not to Kent Hovind, it isn't.
Well, I mean...
Uncle Kent, no relation, does not believe in flat Earth.
Yeah, no, he does not.
One thing.
No. Maya says she's going to need more wine. Maya, have you been keeping up with the drinking game with wine? Because that's a dangerous game. That is a dangerous game that you were playing there, ma'am. I would be careful with that.
He is explicitly confirmed he is a flat earther.
Yes, awesome. That is great, man. You should come on the channel sometime. We could have an interesting conversation.
Debate.
Yeah, I'd be down. You just gotta promise that you're not gonna curse too much or interrupt too much. And if we think that might be a problem, we can always have a moderator on. I know lots of people who are usually down to moderate. So there you go. Or at least I guess he's the first confirmed flat earther. It's possible some of the other people who've been in here have been flat earthers. I don't know. But let's get a little bit more Kent in, because pretty soon we're going to go take a quick hiatus so I can refill my drink.
PhD. Is your PhD legitimate? Well, I think you've got a right to face your accusers. I say, whoever's spreading the information about a PhD, would you please stand? And they don't stand, of course. I'm always ready to answer questions. But whenever somebody says, you don't have a legitimate degree, right away I know it's called an ad hominem attack. They're attacking the person instead of the message.
That's true.
Well, it's true and not true. Pointing out something that you're saying is a lie is not an ad hominem unless you're trying to use it to discredit the arguments that he's making. When I it might be what you're doing. It might be, right?
I think you're exposing their credibility or lack thereof.
Right, but just because someone is uncredible does not mean that they're wrong about everything.
Well, right.
No, but their credibility matters in and of itself.
So look, here's what I mean, right? I've never attacked any one of Kent Hovind's arguments by pointing out that his PhD is fake. I actually go after his arguments and refute them on their merit, and also point out that his PhD is fake. That is not an ad hominem.
True.
So an insult can be an ad hominem if you use it to counter the argument. But if you counter the argument and then also insult someone, whether honestly or dishonestly, it's not an ad hominem. Ad hominem and insult is not; those are not synonyms. In fact, not all ad hominems are even insults. So, for instance, let's say we're having a discussion about what should be done about the crime rate, and I say, well, my opponent is just such a nice guy that he can't be tough on crime, and therefore we shouldn't listen to his arguments. I'm not insulting you. I'm saying nice things about you. You're a really, really nice guy. But I'm still using some character trait of yours to say that your arguments hold no weight. That's an ad hominem. So ad hominems don't have to be insults, and insults don't have to be ad hominems, although there is often an overlap between the two.
Yeah, but you'd be like, oh, you're a vegetarian, so I don't really take you seriously on economics. Oh, those two are completely unrelated. They're not even nice or mean things to say about it.
Scott Duke, the third person is Legs, our mutual friend. Who this is your second time on?
Third, I believe. I participated in 2 with Dr. Lyle or Dr. Landon.
Well, I meant Kent with Bent. But yes, so I think you've been on channel 3 times. And yeah, James Downer says, I don't recall that I needed to mention Kent's fake PhD when I debated him. No, I didn't either. Yeah. So there you go. Well, let's hear what his defense of his PhD is.
Take it a little cautiously. Do you have a legitimate degree? Well, we're trying to draw attention away from their silly religion of evolution. PhD means Doctorate of Philosophy. That's what
True.
it means. Do I have one?
I'll take a
Yes,
drink,
I
yeah.
do. There's a picture of it. It's hanging on the wall right inside if you want to go look at it. Patriot University started 1980 in Colorado Springs. It was a Baptist church that started this university. It's a Christian school, kind of like you guys went to the Christian school up here in Pensacola. Nothing wrong with that. They have about 30 graduates a year. You can give them a phone call if you want. They were at Hilltop Baptist Church for years. They had 25 graduates a year. About 3 got doctor's degrees. They offered doctor's degrees and they offered PhDs. They have now changed their name to Patriot Bible University. That was done just in the last few years. It used to be just simply Patriot University when I went there, okay? They offered a PhD in education. I took it. I got it. It took me 9 years to finish it. I worked hard for my degree. I don't know if people work hard for theirs or not. But if you don't like the doctor's degree, then call me Bubba, call me Kent, call me Hey You, and let's get back to the topic, okay? It's not a big deal with me. Before I finished my last course, I sat down, put the course away, thought about it for 2 weeks. Do I really want to finish this? Is this degree, is the term doctor going to help or hurt my ministry? I just want to win souls and influence people, that's all.
Seriously?
And I really wrestled with, should I even finish it?
I mean,
Why didn't you think about that before you applied, you idiot?
I don't believe pretty much any of the stories that Kent Hovind tells, and I don't believe this one either.
Yeah, evidently it's common for people to get degrees in months, not years, at Patriot University.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
Also, the doctorate he has, as I understand it, is a doctorate of ministry, which is like, I have a PhD in truthology from Christian Tech. I mean, quasi-made-up subjects of which you have a PhD in is essentially a fake PhD.
It's not accredited, and there are reasons for that. So, I don't consider it valid.
Oh, sorry. Look, I'm just going to point out, Kent Hovind's PhD thesis includes a 50-line poem that he wrote about God.
That's it? Or
No,
includes?
it includes this. This is the level of scholarship we're talking about here in his PhD. And it famously starts with, "Hello, my name is Kent Hovind," and a short autobiography. Like, yeah. Like, come on, dude. There's a reason that people say your PhD is fake. It's because it's fake.
Might be a hindrance instead of a help. And I finally did. I ended up with a PhD and a doctorate in divinity. I have a doctor's divinity and doctor in PhD.
Oh, a couple things. Yes, Maya Atkinson, in his dissertation, the paper he had to write to get his PhD in theory, although from what I hear, he didn't write it until after he had his PhD, and people were telling them that normally you needed one of those. Yes, he has a 50-line poem about God. And for $2, Vandali 1998 says, so you don't need a master's or below anymore? Apparently not, although I'm getting conflicting stories from that. And actually, that reminds me, everybody, especially Cheshire Vic, start bugging both of us to get on and figure out what exactly is needed to get a PhD from Patriot University. Because
what I read on the site is that to get into the graduate program, you have to have a 4-year degree in a religious subject, and if not, you need 2 4-year degrees, and it's like a $2,000 fee kind of thing. That's the official thing on their site. So that's not this. That might just be to look good for all I know.
Oh yeah, actually, Chesh, that might be a really good Goblin Reads is Kent's dissertation. It might be like a 6-part Goblin Reads, but if you do that
would be fantastic.
Bring me on for that, please.
Me too, please.
Yes.
In education, religious education. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But if you don't like the degree, then okay.
I actually agree. There's nothing wrong with getting a degree in Christian education. There's not even anything wrong with getting a degree from Patriot University. If you want to get a degree from there, that's fine. But when you present yourself as a PhD and you did not actually do the work to get a PhD or do it from a university that is available to give you such things, you're not a doctor. That's why, despite having a doctor's degree in paleontology from Beethoven University, I don't call myself a doctor.
Well, you should not call yourself a doctor.
No, I should not, because Beethoven University is not an institution that is actually qualified.
It is not accredited.
No.
Like,
No.
I think something that's often overlooked is that, in a very real sense, you can't self-identify as an intellectual. The intellectual community has to recognize your expertise. That's kind of the point of accreditation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it was pointed out above that there are Bible colleges that are accredited.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
yeah, there's a reason for that too. They
Yeah.
went through the accreditation process.
Mm-hmm. It was verified.
Succeeded.
Right, it was verified that their instruction material and coursework and whatnot were up to the standards. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to agree with all the things that they teach. I mean, there are definitely Bible schools that I would say are better or worse, but that's just true for even non-religious schools, right? Like, you know, some local community college isn't as good of a school as, say, like, you know, one of the Ivy League schools here in the US, or like Cambridge or Oxford over in the UK. I mean, it's just how it is, right? Not all schools were created equal. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
But being accredited is the bare minimum that a school needs to do if people want their degrees to be taken seriously. Now, if you want to get a degree from a non-accredited school for your own self-edification and you think that you can gain some knowledge and expertise out of it, maybe you can. Go for it. But don't have people call you by a new title because you did that. Also, if you have a doctorate...
I don't even care. If you want to call yourself Dr. Hovind, you can. Just don't be mad when other people don't take it seriously.
I mean, that's fair. I'm not
required to.
Yeah, I'm not out there to be like, oh, Ken Hovind should be arrested for stolen valor or something. Even stolen valor isn't a crime, so, or at least it's not a crime in most places, I don't think.
Yeah.
It might be a crime in some places, I don't know.
I mean, he seems like he's as much a doctor as Doctor Who. Although even Doctor Who, I think there's a one-off joke where his doctorate was in cheese making. So
I would say that there's actually a higher chance that Doctor Who, which isn't a character's name, but that the Doctor actually has a doctorate degree. I think. I mean, he's been around for a while, and all that time, you're telling me he never bothered to study for a doctorate degree?
Well, he may not have ever gotten like the check mark for it, but he's obviously demonstrated enough competency that he probably would be able to have one if he doesn't already.
Perhaps, but it is also intermission time because my drink is empty, and yeah, that's about all that we need. And plus, we're at about the halfway mark. So what's going to happen now is I'm going to switch to the intermission, and we will be back shortly. So see you in just a few minutes. Oh, Nani, Dare. Oh, Kojira desu ka? there, son. Hi. There we go. After a little bit of technical difficulty where I hit the wrong button, whoops, we are back. And
Hi.
hi. All right. So I noticed that there were some new people here in the chat. Hey, Brainbug, welcome. Kenny got in here. I think I saw Vesta Freya as I was leaving. So there you go. But let's hear Ken Hovind continue to defend his PhD or whatever he's going to go on about.
Don't call me. They call it Patriot a diploma mill. It is not a diploma mill. You can contact them yourself. Okay, I worked pretty hard for my degree. I don't know if they worked hard for theirs or not. About 25
You
graduates a
couldn't
year.
contact a diploma mill?
Yeah.
Like, the fact that you can contact them means they're not.
And
I don't
also, would they
understand.
just admit to be a diploma mill?
Oh, no, we're not a diploma mill. Where would you like your diploma mill?
Right. We just take prepaid orders for degrees. That's a diploma mill.
We're more of a diploma press.
Oh. Fair.
Yes, I have a PhD. And Darwin's degree was in theology, but they call him a scientist. Okay.
Yeah, that's because. Okay, first of all, I'm going to take a drink because technically he's right that Darwin did have a divinity degree. He had a doctorate of divinity. That's true. But here's the thing. The thing that makes you a scientist isn't your degree. It's whether or not you do science. Do you do experiments designed to learn new things about the world and have them published for peer review? Darwin did. You don't, Kent. Kent is not a scientist. Darwin was. Now, if Kent did start doing that, he would be a scientist regardless of the fact that his PhD is fake.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, or if he didn't have any PhD.
Monk Fair says,
now, yeah.
Dr. Reverend Darwin. Actually, it would be Reverend Doctor, but he wasn't actually a Reverend Doctor because he actually never ended up being ordained or taking on any parsonages or other postings in the Church of England. So, yeah.
And you can also add on that just because you work in a scientific field, you're not necessarily a scientist. Like, I'm a chemical engineer, but I'm not a scientist.
Right. Yeah, the key qualifier for being a scientist is to do science. If you're not doing science, you're not a scientist. Now, I have a friend who is a scientist who is not a PhD. He has a master's degree, but he is still doing research in, he's doing cancer research, basically. He's doing oncology research. He's not an oncologist in the sense of being a doctor who specializes in oncology, but he does, in fact, do science as the lead of a lab doing cancer research. So he is a scientist without even having to be a doctor. And he is, in fact, an ordained member of the clergy. It turns out these are things that you can do all of these things. It's fine. It's okay.
Wow.
But Kent does almost none of them. So let's get a little more Kent in, though. Because I do want to finish this video before we go.
Henry Morris has a great article about people. Charles Darwin was an apostate divinity student whose only degree was theology. Alfred Russell had little formal education with only a brief apprenticeship in surveying. And yet they say he was a great scientist. Jean Lamarck is the only one that had a real degree. Ernst Haeckel in Germany seemed to have a bona fide education in the branch of evolutionary science that they pursued. Those are the only two guys. But most people that are involved in evolution in the early days were surveyors or engineers and had nothing to do with biology. We call them the fathers of evolution.
Yeah, because they did science, and they were there by scientists. Like, what do you want? That's how it works.
That's all it takes.
Right. So the thing is, the reason that there's normally an expectation to have academic credentials is that it's very hard to know enough about the topic that you want to investigate to do useful research that is actually rigorous without having that educational background. But it's difficult. It's not impossible. you can still do it. I mean, there's no barrier. There's no journals out there that say you have to have these degrees to publish with us. Your degree is not a relevant publication qualification for any of the scientific journals out there. It's just that without that degree, you probably won't know enough to be able to write the paper. So it
Part of that degree
tends
is training you to write the paper.
right. So it tends to be that in order to actually get published, as a matter of practical concern, you probably are going to need that degree. But it's not actually a formal requirement anywhere, and it never has been. And even though, all these people worked before peer review really became a thing, they essentially did publish their works for peer review in their books, because then their peers could write responses. It's a different system, and I do think that the modern peer review system is more rigorous, but they were still doing science and putting their science up for scrutiny, making them scientists, even if at the time they were called naturalists, because the word scientist hadn't been invented. But let's see what else we get from Kent here.
I do have an earned PhD from a non-accredited Christian university. I've always said that. Thousands of major world leaders throughout history had no degrees of any kind.
Okay.
Thousands of major universities offered degrees by distance
Why
learning
is he
via the
comparing
internet,
himself to a
correspondence. There's nothing
world
wrong with
leader?
that.
Because they're cool guys, and he thinks he's a cool guy, I guess. And
Like on the
also,
level of a world leader?
I guess, I don't know. I think the even more bizarre thing is that he's going on about the correspondence course. I have literally never heard anyone criticize his degree on the basis that it was a correspondence degree. I can't imagine why anyone would. There's nothing wrong with a correspondence degree.
Mhm.
But if you want to use it to give yourself a title, it needs to be a correspondence degree from a legitimate school.
With legitimate, well, more accurately, legitimate courses is really the problem. Is that he's not so properly trained to what would be associated with having a PhD. Like,
Oh.
Arguably, you could have an unaccredited school that met almost all the wickets, but didn't meet an arbitrary one, so it's not accredited, but still
Yeah.
mostly trains you properly.
Also, Henry Hansen says Jane Goodall didn't have a degree. I actually am not positive that's true, but I think it is. And yeah, Jane Goodall was a scientist. I mean, she was. She
was good all around.
Pun. Yes. So, here we go. Let's get a little more Kent in. I want to get to the end of this before the end of the night.
You don't ever have to show up on campus. Thousands of people who attend classes in universities cheat, lie, or bribe their way to get a degree.
Okay.
I didn't do any of those, okay?
No, you
Getting
just
a degree
paid
from an
money.
accredited university.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, this is like the worst tu quoque fallacy, right? It's like, hey, some people with legitimate degrees didn't get them honestly. Okay, you still don't have a real degree. Like, that's how this works. If you can prove that Bob over there, not Bob Knob, obviously, Bob Knob would never do this. But this is a different Bob. If you could prove that other Bob over there, Bob Cobb, say with him, Bob Cobb.
Bob Cobb.
Bob Cobb, if he cheated on his tests, one, I don't know how he would have gotten his thesis through peer review, if he were that dumb. But anyway, let's just say he did somehow. Maybe he bribed his review panel or whatever, or his board. Maybe. I guess it's possible. And he's got a degree that he didn't really earn. If that comes out, I would suggest we strip him of the degree. And now he and you, Kent, are in the same boat. You're both dishonest liars, and neither of you have a degree.
Also, the Jane Goodall thing, she didn't have an undergrad. She eventually got accepted to get a PhD in etology from Cambridge. She didn't have an undergrad, though, so she's like a rare case.
Yeah. I guess based on the merit of her fieldwork.
Yeah.
Well, good for her. I mean, she was obviously a great scientist, and anyone who's going to argue otherwise because she didn't have a degree is... I mean, I'm not going to say you're on Kent Hovind level, but that's pretty dumb.
Yeah. I mean, I understand a lot of people use, including Kent, the heuristic of whether you have a degree of your academic competence, but Jane Goodall is a clear example where it's not a necessary condition.
And a fairly recent one, too.
Yep.
But here we go.
Does not guarantee any level of intelligence. I mean, most of them still believe they came from a rock, for heaven's sake.
No, none of them do. I was stupid enough, I'm just going to drink for it.
Jeez.
Plus, it's
Well,
getting
then
warm in here.
I mean,
came
just-
from the Earth. That's a rock, right?
I mean, maybe he's like channeling the future where Aaron Ra thinks rocks are atheists and atheists think
I
they came
was
from rocks.
just gonna make the rocks
Atheists
are
could only
atheists
come
joke.
from atheists, so if the rocks are atheists, then
Look, I'm not going to have the rocks or atheists discussion in depth on this channel, but no, rocks aren't atheists.
Why not?
Oh my goodness. Let me
That can be a
count.
debate.
Let me count the reasons. No, just. Okay, we're gonna keep going though. How am I doing on? Oh, I haven't dropped a single frame. That's a lot better than last time I streamed. I dropped like 4% of my frames last time.
Oh, that's a lot.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
If you don't like my degree, then call me Cantor Bubba, and let's get back to the topic. If I were dumb or desperate, I could travel to universities around the world and take pictures of where their actual degrees are from. I was at Rutgers University, and I saw a little closet under a stairwell. It's a converted closet where they handle their correspondence for those that are getting degrees in, I don't know, Chinese or something. Nobody does it, so they got 1 or 2 students, or who knows how many. So you don't need a whole university for that degree because there's just nobody's doing it. So the fact that it's a little closet under a stairwell, does that prove it's not legitimate? No. Come on, grow up, get a life. Okay, I think you can have a degree. Atheists occasionally ask the question, if the entire army of Pharaoh drowned in the Red Sea, why haven't we found any evidence? Where's the evidence for these guys drowning in the Red Sea? And it's a fair question, okay? Many atheists ask very fair questions, and it's time Christians be ready always to give an answer to every man that asketh the reason of the hope that's in you. And I'm sorry this taping has gone so long for part 7, but there's a lot of questions that get asked. And we do many more on our radio program every day from 4:30 to 6 Central Time. You can call in on truthradio.com or drdino.com. But in Exodus chapter 14, God told Moses to go and camp by the sea. And it says they went across on dry ground and the waters were a wall beside them. It does not say they walked through a reed sea.
I mean, that is what the name of the sea translates to, but I don't really care.
There's some even liberal Christians that say, oh yeah, they just walked through shallow water. Well, then how did Pharaoh's army drown? You tell everybody, lay down, don't get up.
They were very short.
I mean, come on.
Pharaoh had the Oompa Loompa army. I mean, hey, why not?
there were no
Pharaoh wishes.
That's pretty Pharaoh enough.
That's not great. Too many syllables.
It's better than Kent's jokes, though.
That's fair.
It was dry ground. And the Bible says God took off their chariot wheels. So what's the truth about the Red Sea crossing? It says the waters returned and covered the chariots and the horsemen. If you look at the country of Egypt in the lower right-hand corner of this map, you'll see Egypt has the Red Sea right beside it. It comes up into 2 branches. The one on
Why would you show a map of the Mediterranean if you want us to focus on the Red Sea? That's just... I mean, it's on there, I get it, but you couldn't have found a map centered on the Red Sea, Kent? That was impossible to you? This was made after Google was a thing.
With a chart labeled Red Sea, not Mediterranean
Right,
Sea.
I mean, just... I'm
Right,
taking a
come on.
drink. I don't know if gross incompetence counts, but like, my goodness. And this slide is labeled Egypt. Not even the entire country of Egypt is on this map.
It doesn't even say Egypt. It just says Africa.
Well, no, it says Egypt down at the bottom.
I meant on the map itself.
Oh yeah, on the map.
Right.
No, it's
No,
it does say
there it is,
Egypt.
yeah, by the Nile.
It's
Yeah.
just super fuzzy. I mean, this is that's really dumb. All right, let's just keep going.
On the left, called the Gulf of Suez, where the Suez Canal is. The one on the right, called the Gulf of Aqaba. Actually, there are 2 parts to the Red Sea. It splits right there around what's called the Sinai Peninsula.
You could do it this time.
Hey, that's way better. Why did you do that before?
Yeah, why didn't you lead with this map, Kent? What is even going on? Oh my goodness, it's good to know that he's incompetent in everything, not just science.
Which, by the way, is not Sinai. No, Sinai is not there. But the children of Israel were leaving Egypt, and it took Pharaoh 3 days to catch them. They could not have crossed the Gulf of Suez. They went all the way across the Sinai Peninsula and crossed over there on the right at the Gulf of Aqaba.
What?
Right where that red dot is next to the Gulf of Aqaba is actually a beach. There's a dry riverbed that runs right up to that beach. And it's mountains on both sides and no escape any place. Certainly not with a bunch of people with their families, kids and wagons and animals and stuff like that. You're not going to get up either one of those mountain ranges. This satellite view is kind of from the north, a little strange view. There you can see that beach right there. The children of Israel went out of Egypt at the far upper right and traveled all the way across the Sinai Peninsula and ended up stuck on that beach.
Okay, so then how come after Mount Sinai, which is on the peninsula, which they got to after crossing the Red Sea, they then wandered in the desert for 40 years?
They just have bad sense of direction.
But they would have had to cross back over just to get to the Mount Sinai in the first place.
It's really bad.
Really bad. That's why it took 40 years.
No, but that's the thing. They got to the mountain of Sinai almost immediately after crossing the sea. The 40 years comes after Sinai. They couldn't have walked in circles. They would have had to go up and around or back across the sea. That's the thing. It doesn't fit with the narrative. I'm taking another drink.
They just spun in circles for a while.
They couldn't have. That wouldn't get them to Mount Sinai.
Maybe they did circles around Mount Sinai.
And then were chased by Pharaoh, even though the getting to Mount Sinai happened after being chased by Pharaoh?
I didn't say it made sense.
Okay, look.
None of what you're saying makes any sense right now.
Look, okay, Kent, so on the map that we're seeing right now, Egypt is at the top, right? Then in the middle is Mount Sinai, and then on the bottom is the Arabian Peninsula. Kent Hovind is saying that they went overland into the Sinai Peninsula, then went over water across the Red Sea into the Arabian Peninsula.
Yeah.
And then, according to the narrative, after that, they got to Mount Sinai. But Mount Sinai isn't in the Arabian Peninsula, it's in the Sinai Peninsula.
Hence the name.
Which means they would have had to go back to get to Mount Sinai. But it was now across the ocean from them.
Yeah.
They couldn't get there by wandering in circles. They would have had to go back to where they had just come from.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what to say to that.
Yeah, it don't
I'm
make
not
no
tense, though.
it don't make no sense. The whole thing is insane, and I'm drinking again.
Drink.
Oh man,
That beach is huge.
I'm sure
Those
it
are
is.
little buildings, those little squares on there, actually warehouses and stuff. It's a monster beach, big enough to hold 2 or 3 million people, no problem.
That looks like a
So here's the
great
gentleman-
place for a cheap Godzilla set. Like I can just picture Godzilla stomping through little tiny buildings on that beach.
Let's make it happen.
Oh, that would be fun.
Start a GoFundMe.
All right, guys, GoFundMe. Give me $100,000 to make a fan-made Godzilla movie set in the Arabian Peninsula.
Of Israel stuck on the beach. They can't go north or south. There's mountains both ways. They can't go back. There's Pharaoh's army coming through the gap.
Oh, I
and
guess
they
it was
can't
set on
go
the Sinai
ahead. There's a
Peninsula.
Red Sea
Whatever.
in front of them. So what do? Well, you cry and blame God for your problems. That's what everybody does, okay? God, I can't get out of this.
Apparently, it worked in this case.
Yeah, that's...
What do? Dry riverbed where they came out. At the south end of the beach, Ron Wyatt years ago found a pillar right there. He pulled the pillar out, scrubbed it off, and set it up on concrete. And it was pretty badly eroded, but some of it was still legible. And it said in Paleo-Hebrew, apparently the pillar was erected by King Solomon. And
Notice that we don't actually get any copies of this Paleo-Hebrew script, and also Ron Wyatt is a known, Oh, Ben, help me out. What's that word?
Is it liar?
Is it Frau? No, that's German for woman.
It's fraud.
Proad?
No, Freud? No, wait, that was
Something like that.
yeah.
It's something like
a psychoanalyst.
Frode.
that. Pride.
No, fraud. It's fraud. Robert Myers is a notorious fraud. Right.
Oh.
Yeah. Huh. Funny that. So, yeah. That was obviously a picture of a real pillar, but one, it doesn't look like a heavily eroded pillar from, like, the time of Solomon. And two, it's curious how we don't get any good pictures of this Paleo-Hebrew script.
it said, this is the pillar erected by King Solomon to commemorate the crossing of the Red Sea.
It looks like just a smooth concrete pillar. What is anyone talking about here? That looks like it was made like 20 years ago.
Yeah. Like no erosion from wind, or I guess you wouldn't have much rain.
It doesn't even have any like rock texture in it. It's just a smooth pillar of what looks like concrete. I don't. Okay, sure. It's a nice solar panel you got there, though. Was that erected by King David? Is that King David's solar panel? My goodness. Ugh. And that's King Saul's chain link fence behind it. I just whatever. I'm gonna hit play.
Gilbert Vincent's a good friend of mine from Texas. He's been there a couple times. He got a bulldozer and helped stand it up straight and put more dirt around it because it was kind of leaning over.
Yes, that is exactly what you do with a priceless archaeological find. You use a bulldozer on it. Oh my goodness. Anyone want to tell me some things that are wrong with finding a priceless artifact and having some guy with a bulldozer show up? I'll name a few things. Like, let's see. Where were the in-situ photographs? Did you actually get permission to perform an archaeological dig? Where's that paperwork? Did you actually register the site with any of the international bodies involved in registering archaeological sites, as you're required to do in order to actually get authentic provenance? Did you divide up the site into quadrants so you can exactly identify the location of various artifacts? Did you follow proper procedure for extracting artifacts? Because I'll tell you one thing, bulldozer ain't it, buddy. Yeah, everything about this is wrong. It's like, there's a reason methodology is a thing. It's an important reason. It's why Robert Byers can't be taken seriously on any of his claims.
He climbed up to the top of it.
Because he's a fraud.
Right there, where this beach is, it's about 8 miles across the Red Sea. Well, at that point, there's a shallow spot. The deep, up toward the city of Eilat, where I was a few years ago, is about 5,000 feet deep on both sides. This whole Gulf of Aqaba is about 5,000 feet deep, except for right there. There's a shallow spot. I should probably say shallow. It's actually 900 feet deep. That's still pretty deep. But 900 feet over 8 miles is not bad. It's a gentle slope down, gentle slope back up. And if you go scuba diving down there, you'll see the rocks have been moved out of the way. Somebody cleared a path across the bottom of the Red Sea. Probably done by Moses and the people. The Bible says Pharaoh's army drowned trying to cross the Red Sea. The waters were a wall unto them.
What's up?
What?
You want me to back up?
Did you just say that when they crossed the Red Sea, they set up, like, barriers?
I don't think he did, but I'll rewind a couple of seconds.
You said they moved the rocks aside?
It sounded like he was basically saying that they carved a path and filled in this part, which is the shallow part. That's what I heard.
Well, let's hear it again.
Bottom of the Red Sea. Probably done by Moses and the people. The Bible says Pharaoh's army drowned trying to cross the 100 feet deep. That's still pretty deep. But 900 feet over 8 miles is not bad. It's a gentle slope down, gentle slope back up. And if you go scuba diving down there, you'll see the rocks have been moved out of the way. Somebody cleared a path across the bottom.
Oh, he's saying that God cleared the path by moving the water aside.
By moving the rocks out of the way. But what about when the water came back? Wouldn't the rocks that were removed just come back again? With the water? Like, none of that makes any sense.
No, shh. But yes, actually. Oh! Drink for Godzilla.
Okay, is it going to get better? It'll get better.
I don't think it's going to get better. But here's the other thing. I don't believe you about scuba diving there. I don't.
You did say scuba diving.
Oh, that's true. Maybe if you go scuba diving, it's similar to Cuban diving. Maybe scuba diving is what happens if you go scuba diving in Cuba. Go scuba diving. Then you can come back. Then you can come back for some Coke and Bacardi in Havana. Not Bacardi. No, it's not Bacardi because that's Puerto Rican. I don't know anything about anything.
Is it a scuba libre?
Scuba. Yes, get a scuba libre. I wonder how the scuba diving is off Guantanamo Bay.
Oh, I hear it's lovely this time of year.
It's true. Kent Hovind can't prove that Godzilla didn't clear that path. He might have.
It's true. It makes about as much sense.
Yeah, about as much.
The Red Sea. Probably done by Moses and the people. The Bible says...
Yeah, see, he does say probably done by Moses and the people, but that's stupid. So I'm just going to take a drink. I guess you were right about that.
It's pretty dumb.
You could have just gone with it was part of the miracle, but sure, whatever, Kent.
Pharaoh's army drowned trying to cross the Red Sea. The waters were a wall unto them. To walk 8 miles would take, half a day. with all the children of Israel pulling their wagons and everything else.
Half a day? I mean, maybe if you're having to keep pace with like old people and big heavy carts, then yeah, okay, fine.
You can walk a mile normally in 15 minutes.
But like, I can see where like trying to coordinate a gigantic group of people and all their animals and children and whatnot, you would go at a much slower pace in that case. So I'll just give it to them.
Yeah.
So
maybe the Pharaoh's forces just were bad swimmers.
Well, I mean, if they were covered by 900 feet of water, I mean, like, if we just accept the story as written, as he's telling it, I'm pretty sure that I would drown if 900 feet of water came crashing on me. Actually, I don't know that I would get to drown. I might just die of blunt force trauma.
Like, you'll be,
just crushed.
And if you didn't die, you'd be knocked unconscious and
then drown quickly.
At the bottom, according to Ron Wyatt, he went scuba diving down there and found...
According to Ron Wyatt, noted fraud.
Human bones, horses' hooves, chariot wheels. Now, there's some controversy about the chariot wheels, but this is what appears to be a chariot wheel, gold-plated. They say...
That's a picture of a chariot wheel. What is
going on?
And
also,
the thing...
The 18th dynasty... So, it says what?
Hold on a second. So he showed two things. I want to see the first thing he showed.
Human bones, horses' hooves.
It didn't take very long.
Chariot wheel.
Okay, so this vague, blurry, blue nonsense is a chariot wheel, apparently, from Ron Wyatt's expedition. It could just as well be a hubcap for all I can tell from this photo. This photo means nothing to me.
I'm pretty sure that's a ghost. Or like a flash. Like, I don't really see anything there. I mean, I see something that can't really make out.
I've seen more convincing photos of the Loch Ness Monster than this. I have no idea what the heck is going on right now.
Did someone carve the Death Star in something, and then it's an overexposed...
Seriously, I don't even know. Yeah, actually, it kind of looks like what would happen if I did an overexposed photo of like my Death Star ice sphere mold after I take the ice out, because I've got one of those because I'm a giant nerd. Yeah, I don't. This is just nothing. I've seen much more convincing photos of Bigfoot. And I mean much more convincing. I've seen a few pictures of Bigfoot where I was like, it almost sounds plausible. This, I don't know. This is just
Shroud
nothing.
of Turin is more...
way more.
So at 900 feet of water, we're talking about 400 PSI or so.
Ooh, yeah, I don't think I would survive that one.
I don't know how much pressure dinosaur skin can handle, or human skin.
Well, to be fair, that is the pressure you would be if you were 900 below sea level. That's not the same thing as getting hit by a 900-foot wave.
Yeah, we'd also have to calculate that kinetic energy, which would also be significant. But
tremendous, yeah.
So here, let's see the picture that we're getting, because I think...
Now, there's some controversy about the chariot wheels, but this is what appears to be a chariot wheel.
Okay, so he's saying that this is a drawing of a chariot wheel that we're supposed to compare to the previous picture of nothing.
Is the controversy whether it was something and not nothing?
All right, so
I guess
understand that it's pretty early age where someone can draw a circle and like lines in it like that.
Well, no,
like,
I don't dispute that this is a picture of the chariot of Thutmose. Like, that seems perfectly reasonable. Like, this looks like an Egyptian artifact. Like, it's fine. I don't care.
Sure.
My problem here is, like, you haven't demonstrated that the thing that you first showed is in any way anything like this, because what you first showed was a round blur of nothing. Like, any circular object at that low level of detail could look like this. It could be anything.
It could be a pizza.
Yeah, that could have been underwater. Maybe it was Pharaoh's pizza under the Red Sea. I don't know.
Gold-plated. They said you can't pick it up. It's a gold veneer because it just crumbles. The wood's rotted out. It's like chrome plating on a car. If you put a bumper in the water, let the bumper rust out, just had the chrome, you couldn't pick it up. It would crumble, okay? But there are those who argue...
That's convenient.
That's not legitimate. I don't know. But I'm just telling you what Ron told me, that there were real chariot wheels. When he took the pictures to the Antiquities Department in Egypt, they said, oh, wow, this is from the 18th dynasty. He said, how do you know that? They said, well, the 18th dynasty is the only one that used 4, 6, and 8-spoke chariot wheels, and all 3 were down there. So this was the same guys that chased Moses out of Egypt. The 18th
I find that
dynasty.
difficult to believe.
I don't know about the chariot wheels. Like, I don't know. I don't particularly care. But Ron Wyatt has never provided provenance for this or any of the normal archaeological methodology. So basically, him saying it means just as much as me saying it, having never been to Egypt. I've been to the UAE, but that's not Egypt.
I mean, to me, it's more like 6 spokes or 8 spokes. Like the normal divisions of like how you can easily divide things in. Like, I find it very difficult to believe that the only civilization that ever did that is this one.
Right.
Well, they didn't say civilization. They said dynasty. So that would have restricted it to Egypt. So to be fair, there is that. But like, yeah, I don't believe these wheels are real because one, Ron Wyatt is saying Ron Wyatt said a thing is the same as saying no one has said a thing, as far as I'm concerned. Ron Wyatt never provides any evidence that would constitute actual evidence of an archaeological find. Ever. He has never done this, as far as I know. I'm willing to be proven wrong on that. I would be happy to be proven wrong on that. So if you have an example of him actually having provided sufficient backup for his finds, let me know. But we really had to push through on this because we've only got 15 minutes left of video, and I think some of it's preaching, and I want to be done with it tonight.
So that makes Mount Sinai over in Arabia, because remember they crossed the Red Sea and then they came to Mount Sinai?
Oh, see, that's what I was talking about. But no, it's not over in Arabia. No one has ever thought that. We've always known where it is. It's on the Sinai Peninsula, hence the name. There is currently a monastery there for the reason that it's Mount Sinai. There's a Christian men's monastery.
The Sinai Peninsula is not where Mount Sinai is. Mount Sinai is in Arabia. Right over there in that red section there is actually the holy precinct where Mount Sinai is. Galatians tells us Sinai's in Arabia. It says so in Galatians chapter 4. If Ron is right on all this, and I believe that he is, and you can see much more on his Discoveries series, it's $100 for 5 DVDs. That's how they fund their ministry, to go back over there and do more research. Well worth getting. You can see this is apparently Mount Sinai. And there's video footage of all this. The top is still burned.
What do you mean the top is still burned? It
became a type of volcanic glass like obsidian or something. It actually burned the rock. At the bottom, you see the outline where the border was set up, because remember Moses told the children of Israel, don't come up onto the mountain, and they says they established a border. Well, the pillars are still there. There's also apparently the altar that Aaron made with a golden calf. They made the golden calf on the altar, but on the side of the altar, they drew a picture of a calf or cow. Still there. God told Moses to smite the rock and water would come out. Well, most of the...
Okay, hold on. So, someone drew a crude picture of a cow on a mountain, and a noted liar said that he found chariot wheels in the ocean nearby. Therefore, despite all of the history saying that that's not what it is, we're going to go ahead and say that that's Mount Sinai. That's
stupid.
Yes, that is just beyond insane.
Confounding.
Yeah, I don't. Also, so here's the thing. Now, I don't actually know what Laos means in Arabic, but we're gonna find out because he said that was the temple of the law, and so I'm going to go ahead and see if I can't figure that out real quick. So I'm going to get a handy-dandy online Arabic keyboard here so I can actually type it in. And let me make sure I get this correct.
My keyboard only has Arabic numerals.
Oh, that's a... Yep, okay. So let's grab that and then see what that means. Almonds. It's the mountain of almonds.
Okay.
So that mountain is not the mountain of laws, even though Laos does sound like laws, because, that's how you determine what words in Arabic mean, is what do they sound like.
It's not like English. Oh my goodness.
Maybe it's a generic word for tree nut.
So,
that is so stupid.
So yes, it's not the mountain of laws. It's LAWS. It's the mountain of almonds. Here we go. Let's get more Kent in.
Bible story picture
a lot
books
of water.
have a little trickle of water coming out of a rock and somebody holding a cup. How are you going to feed or water 2 million people and their animals with a trickle?
Thanks for being a religious art critic, Kent. No one thinks that any given icon of this event is supposed to be some kind of historically accurate depiction. It's not the point of paintings.
Trickle of water coming out of a rock. That's a stupid idea. Some of them show a little bigger picture. Actually, a little bigger picture of water. Actually, it's probably huge. A lot of folks think this is the rock that Moses smote. That rock sticking up on that mountain is 5 stories tall.
Just look at it.
50 feet to the top of that rock, as tall as these trees around here.
Okay.
And it's split right down the middle. On both sides, there are erosion marks. Water came pouring out of that rock.
What?
So you can see the video series for Ron if you want more on that.
Okay.
Oh.
I'm going to take a quick drink. Oh, man. Okay, so here's the thing. There's no reason not to think that that's wind erosion, because if in fact there were a vertical seam in that rock where the rock were simply softer and therefore more susceptible to erosion, it would just erode that way. Like, if you want to say that was water erosion, you're going to have to do a whole lot more than to say that there was erosion.
Are you telling me that it's possible for other fluids besides water to cause erosion?
Yes. Also, so after actually bothering to look up, actually translate allows, Wikipedia would have just told me that the name means mountain of almonds. So thanks, Wikipedia. I wish I had looked at that first.
I mean, in fairness, it does sound delicious.
Right.
I mean, yeah, I would eat that. All right, here we go. Let's get more in.
And Sodom also, he's got a lot of stuff on his website and on his video series about Sodom and Gomorrah. The Dead Sea in Israel has 5 spots along there that are just real high salt concentration and totally destroyed landscape.
The Dead Sea, one of the saltiest of bodies of water on Earth, has areas nearby with high salt concentration. Oh my goodness, you guys can't see it, but this is my shocked face.
I can picture it.
Yeah. It looks exactly like my bored face.
Oh.
I mean, I know I'm salty over it.
Goodness.
Ron says he found, and I believe him, Sodom, Gomorrah, Gera, Gaza, Admah, Leboam. These were the ones that the cities that were destroyed. You can read through Genesis.
I like how he says Leboam, but his map clearly said Zeboam. Make up your mind, Kent.
It's just lines on paper.
Yeah. Another thing is, like, I don't know of anyone who's out there saying that nothing about the Bible has that it says is ever been confirmed via archaeology. Like, we know that many of the locations given in the Old Testament are real places. I mean,
right.
Like, no one is contesting this. I mean, there might be some crazy people out there who are like, nope, if it's in the Bible, it's gotta be wrong. But I don't think anyone arguing in good faith is saying that.
I think Kent's going the other way, where people think that either everything in the Bible is correct or nothing is. So if you prove any one thing that's in the Bible is correct, then the rest must be.
I mean, it's not too dumb for me to put it past him, but I don't know if that's what he's arguing.
I have definitely met people that kind of adhere to that line of thinking. So I think Kent is either, I don't know if Kent believes that himself, but he's certainly exploiting those people.
Are you saying I'm overestimating humanity as a whole?
Don't we all?
Fair enough.
Chapter 14 and Deuteronomy chapter 29 to get more on this. But God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. Apparently, Sodom and Gomorrah are right there along the south end of the Dead Sea, right by Masada. When I was up on top of Masada a couple years ago, you can look down and see this big square in the ground where apparently it used to be a city. This picture shows what looks like pilasters and towers of an ancient wall. Well, that's the way they built their cities back then. If you make it up over one wall, you got the enemy dumping arrows.
I gotta say, I am not convinced that that isn't a natural formation. For one thing, there's much more regularity on the bottom picture than there is up top. I'm not saying it's not a city. What I'm saying is I'm going to need way more than these grainy photos of almost nothing to demonstrate it to me.
They're not evenly spaced. Which would you expect from a city?
Well, they don't look evenly spaced to me. I'm going to be fair enough to say that maybe that's a matter of the perspective I'm looking at it in. I don't have a scale bar. The shadows might be at a different angle than I think they are. So I'm just going to say this. Two things. One, if it's a city, then that's cool. I'm not going to say it can't be Sodom. Whatever. That I don't have any reason to say that Sodom can't be a real place. Right? People didn't think Troy was a real place, and it was a real place. People don't think Sodom was a real place. It can be a real place. That's fine. But this is insufficient evidence. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying it's not Sodom. I'm just saying this is insufficient for me to say that it is Sodom, and that Robert Myers, or whatever it is, Robert Byers. What was the name of the guy? Matt. What was it? No, I can't remember it.
Doesn't matter.
The Watt guy, right?
Yeah.
The Wyatt guy.
Yeah, it was Robert Wyatt, Ron Wyatt. That's what it is. I'm getting,
Robert Byers and Ron Wyatt.
I'm getting those two idiots confused. Which, by the way, in case you guys don't know, Robert Byers is a guy who frequents the, I think it's like r/creation, and he has recently acquired himself an editor. And because Robert Byers' posts on Reddit are completely incomprehensible, and depressing. But someone out there has taken it on as a service to the universe to edit and clean up his arguments so that they are coherent. And also, his initial reaction to this was to ask if his editor was a young woman. So there you go. Just thought I'd point that out.
That's not weird.
I know, right?
So if you're on Reddit, go read Robert Byers' depressed editor.
Yep, it's pretty great. Yeah. Okay, here we go.
Frozen hot oil and things down on you, from the second wall. Not a good place to be.
Oh,
we have sulfur balls. I've got some here on the table.
If you want him to come on the channel someday.
I'm sorry, who?
Robert Berkinson, the flat earther that was.
Oh yeah. So welcome back. Sorry, I didn't even see that. I was looking away. So here's the thing, Robert Berkinson. You have a few options. If you would like to have a more structured discussion, feel free to email me. Oh goodness, you're right there.
I didn't cover my mic in time.
Yes, we have mute buttons. Sorry, one of my guests is dying. F in the chat for legs as lungs. But sorry, back to what I was talking about. Robert Berkinson. So if you want to come on the channel, there's a couple options. You can email me. I'm the.dapper.dino.yt@gmail.com. You can find that on my channel about page if you can't remember it, because I can barely remember it. Also, if I have an after show, I usually have a portion towards the end where basically any creationist is welcome to come on as long as they can be reasonably polite. We've had problems with that in the past. I don't necessarily think that's you, but yes, you have to be reasonably nice. The other option is I'm actually thinking about hosting like an open mic night, because I've had a lot of people who wanted to come on for various reasons, and I never really found like a great fit. So that might even just be this Saturday. I might just have an open mic night on Saturday. So that would probably be actually noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, which is I think like 8 p.m. London time. So I don't know what time zone you're in, but yeah, Saturday might just be an open mic, so you can come in. Yeah. Oh, we got a lot of Fs for you, so that will heal your lungs, I think. All right, here we go. A little bit more, Kent.
These are actual sulfur balls from Sodom and Gomorrah.
Sulfur balls?
Smell like sulfur.
I mean, I don't know.
They're 99.9% sulfur, and they're burned out. Okay? If you break them open, some are still yellow inside. Most of them are pretty badly burned. Some of them are bigger, like golf ball size, but...
Wait, so if they're pure sulfur, then how do you know they were burned? Because then they would have to have been oxygenated, Kent.
Then it'll be sulfur dioxide.
I don't know what he means by burned
smells
out.
differently than sulfur.
Well, the only thing I can think of is it means that they've been combusted. But combusted sulfur, by definition, can't be pure sulfur. Because that's how burning works.
Yeah, Kent doesn't understand that either.
That's like the most basic... Like, look, I'm really bad at chemistry.
I'm just gonna drink.
Okay, that's fair.
Like, you don't need to be great at chemistry to understand the difference between a pure element and a compound.
Yeah.
You just have to know how to read.
Oh, and Robert Burkinson found me
pretty basic.
because of my debate with Batman. Oh, that's good. I'm glad that you came over here. Because really, I do appreciate having dissenting voices in the chat, and that also means that hey, people who are going to disagree with Robert here, do not do so abusively. That will earn you a timeout, and that is a message for my mods to make sure that. In general, people who disagree are more than welcome to do so openly as long as they are not abusive, and people are allowed to disagree with them, again, as long as they're not abusive. So, play nice, and you're welcome to be here pretty much no matter what your stance is on these topics, as long as you stay broadly on topic. If you start going into, like, your complaints or support for Trump on a stream about, say, like, Noah's Flood, that's way too far off topic. I'm going to put the stop to that. But yeah, this is a place where we definitely allow dissenting opinions to express themselves. But that does not make it a free speech zone. Like I said, you have to be respectful and you need to be broadly on topic. So there you go.
Millions of these sulfur balls are over there, right in that one area. It literally rained burning sulfur. So hot that it took the bricks of the city and baked it into ash. These sulfur balls specimens were tested by Michael Bonilla, a friend of mine up in...
It baked the bricks into
ash.
But weren't the bricks made mostly of various like sediments, like clay and such?
That's not what ash is.
How do you bake rock into ash? Because basically, bricks are artificial stones, from my understanding of it, right? How do you? I don't.
Just keep baking. Just keep baking it.
I'm just gonna drink again.
Just keep baking it until it's done.
Okay, so
Kent doesn't know about baking.
now I want a pie because you said baking too much.
Well, we saw pictures of a pizza pie.
Ooh, I would eat a pizza pie. I have some pizza pie in my refrigerator.
New York. He said they were 97.4% pure sulfur when he had them tested. No place else in the world has these phenomena.
Monk Mayfair does point out that bricks often had straw in them. But then again, the straw, I guess, could burn to ash, but the whole brick wouldn't, right? Like, wouldn't there be the inorganic components of the brick still just be there?
I think it depends on what you mean by brick, because like there's brick in the sense like it's just some square, some sort of material, and then there's brick as in it's specifically clay that was been hardened and it's a ceramic.
All right, I'll be willing to say this. There might be some bricks that can turn to ash, maybe. But these formations that look like natural rocks are not convincing me that these are ash bricks. It doesn't look like ash or bricks.
Now, we've got hundreds of them in our museum out here. Sulfur balls from Sodom and Gomorrah. Apparently, the cities were actually burned up. If you dig into the ash, it looks like just a cliff of ash. That's actually the old city wall. I mean, that was...
No, it looks like a cliff of sedimentary rock, none of which is ash. It looks like a bunch of sandstone. Now, I can't say for certain that it's sandstone, because I'm not there and I'm not a geologist. But nothing about that looks like a city. That looks entirely natural. Entirely.
I think he's just going, oh, it's white and powdery. It must be ash.
Ugh.
The brick.
It's like
under 2,600 degree temperature, it turned into ash, laminated. You can talk to Richard. That's Richard in the picture there, digging his finger into the ash. And there's sulfur balls in there. We've got one that apparently is a part of a human bone.
Wait, it's a sulfur ball that's part of a human bone?
Yes.
what does that even mean?
It means human bones are partially made of sulfur balls.
Also, I want to point out how there's this finely graded bedding here. This is not a brick. This is a sedimentary deposit. I don't know how much more obvious it could be, but it's pretty darn obvious. This is not a brick.
I'm no biologist, but I'm not aware of any sulfur compounds that comprise human bone.
Yeah, Robert Atson says laminated ash. I mean, but he's also saying that this is brick, I guess. So this is laminated ash brick.
From human bone.
And with a human bone embedded in the brick somehow that has a sulfur ball as part of it. Like, these are all English words.
I'm drinking again.
Yeah, that's fair. Let's drink again. That is...
I'm not certain, but isn't all ash, like, like it's a result of the burning of a carbon compound. Like not all carbon compounds, but like all ash comes from the burning of some carbon compound.
I can't define ash.
You would probably have to do that. You would probably have to check on that for us. You are the resident chemistry
You know what?
whiz.
It's an
That's my
interesting
understanding.
question. I'd have to do some research on that.
Why don't you explain it for the audience there, Legs?
What do you mean?
We're just making fun of Kent Ovens.
Oh,
That was baked. It's in our museum. If you want to see that one out there.
That's a human bone.
So I believe they found Sodom and Gomorrah, and you can check the Discoveries videos if you want more on that.
I'll say, look, sure, maybe they found Sodom and Gomorrah, but you've presented me literally nothing that would indicate that.
I often get asked, what about the unicorn? The Bible talks about a unicorn. What is it? Well, I don't know, but I'll give you the theories, okay? The Bible says he has the strength of a unicorn, Numbers 23. The strength of a unicorn, Numbers 24. Will the unicorn be willing to serve thee or abide by thy crib? Canst thou bind the unicorn? The Bible's teaching us here, the unicorn is strong. He is unwilling to be a servant. You can't tame him.
Strong. It says he has the same strength of what a unicorn has.
Yeah, but you usually say that about strong things. Like, you got the strength of an ox.
Not when I'm talking about my weak friend who has the strength of a unicorn.
All right, fair enough, but I think the interpretation that the unicorn is strong is a reasonable one from the text.
If you say so. I'm not fully convinced.
Fair enough.
And nobody ever harnesses him to plow your fields. You just can't do it. He's untamable. Wilt thou trust him because his strength is great? Wilt thou leave thy labor to him?
Now it says his strength is great, so take that.
No, he won't. Psalm says he can skip like a calf, and Lebanon and Syrian like a young unicorn. So the animal could skip. And it says in Psalm 92, the horn of a unicorn. This is one of the only references that makes people think the unicorn had one horn. Because
I mean, there's also the name, but sure, whatever.
it says singular
what about
horn.
the word unicorn makes you think one?
Maybe it's the uni, which is, means one.
Huh.
Yeah.
One corn, not one
university.
Horn.
Right, but we're going with
unicorn. I believe the unicorn is probably more like a one-horned dinosaur. I doubt it's a horse with a horn, but we've all heard.
You could have gone this reasonable smart route and just gone with one-horned rhinoceros like freaking everyone else can, but no, you had to just go with dinosaur. And oh my goodness, if he says Ceratosaurus, I'm finishing my drink, going to get another one, and then we're going to finish this video no matter what.
I think so. Right now, there's a dinosaur.
So let's see what happens.
That story all our life, so we're not going to get that out of our system, okay? But if you had a open mind and could look at this, you'd say, man, a lot of dinosaurs had a single horn, a monoclonius, Styracosaurus.
No! Okay, you've got a kid holding a Styracosaurus toy that obviously has lots of horns, Kent.
More than one.
I don't get it. Granted, it has one horn on the nose, but what, do frill horns just not count anymore?
He's never
Nope.
seen an animal with horns like a bull.
Triceratops had 3, but maybe they're only counting the...
Wait, that looks like an iguana.
It was a chameleon.
Or an iguana, yeah, that's what I-
I'm drinking.
He did not just call that a triceratops.
He did.
No, he didn't. No, he didn't. He hasn't started talking about this slide yet.
He said a Triceratops has 3 horns,
Thought of it.
and he flashed up a Jackson's chameleon.
No, thought of it while transitioning slides.
Okay, let's see what
And
happens.
Said it, and now he's going to talk about this.
Okay, let's see what happens.
center one. The other two might have been some other projection. I don't know. Anyway, I don't think the unicorn was necessary.
No, there was nothing about that. He definitely put that up there as his Triceratops photo.
I thought it was impossible for Kent to be that dumb.
I just...
There's no way. He's got to go back to that slide and be like, all right, now we'll talk about this slide.
I'm drinking again.
Maybe to play devil's advocate, and this is like, okay, to play RFID advocate, maybe he thinks any three-horned animal is a Triceratops.
Because it has 3 horns on the top.
The Jacksons... I almost used up our free F-bomb.
A horse with a horn, probably more like a reptile, giant reptile. All right, question: do wisdom teeth prove evolution?
He's not even going to mention the rhinoceros option. It's the best option you have, and there's nothing wrong with it. No reasonable person is be like, oh yeah, the unicorn totally couldn't have been a rhinoceros. I mean, that's...
You know what's also even a good one? It's not a great one, is that animal. It's not actually a horn, it's a tusk. It's an aquatic animal.
Narwhal?
Yeah, the narwhal. Like that also would be not a great example, but a better one than the chameleon.
Well, narwhals' tusks have been fraudulently sold as unicorn horns, but the thing is, what animal is the Bible referring to? It's probably a rhino.
Yeah, because it's a terrestrial animal with a single horn.
Yeah, I mean, just say it's a rhino.
Yeah.
You don't have to come up with some extraordinary thing like, oh, they thought that the whale could go on land, or they thought that it was a dinosaur. Like, Also, $1.99 for Mothra J, which, by the way, we drink because Mothra's here.
Ooh.
But Mothra J says, Kent has a PhD in missing the obvious, you know. Yeah, I mean, at that point, yeah, basically. My goodness. Oh, and a Godzilla. But here we go. We might go a little bit
Jack
over.
Cawazzo is a dentist from New Jersey. He spoke at our boot camp here last year. Some of you got to hear Jack speak. This book, Buried Alive, is great about the Neanderthals. And wisdom teeth are not proof for evolution. They're actually proof that man used to live longer and grow bigger. Today, 60% of Americans have trouble with their wisdom teeth and have to have them removed or have problems with them. 60%. Many other countries don't have problems with their wisdom teeth because they've got a coarser diet. And because of the rough stuff they chew and hard, more, raw vegetables and stuff, their wisdom teeth come in when they're 18 or 20 with no problem. Today, we have a softer diet. 60% have trouble. But evolutionists argue that wisdom teeth are proof for evolution, when actually they're proof that man used to be living longer, maturing slower, and growing bigger. If you're getting bigger by the time you're 18 or 20, as your head enlarges, it's time for that last tooth to come in to fill in the back of the jaw.
It wouldn't matter anyway.
Proof for evolution. Just proof that man used to live longer.
Okay, it's not proof that man used to live longer. It probably is proof that man, and we know there's reasonable evidence for this, had to have bigger jaws, but like...
If everything Kent said about man was true, they were bigger and all that stuff, then it would be proof for evolution, because man has changed since then.
Well,
has it not, Kent?
It could be proof, or it could be evidence for evolution.
Problem with our wisdom teeth now.
I will say that
how is that example not an example of evolution?
So you could argue, and I don't know that it would necessarily work, but you could argue that there are non-evolutionary changes. So organisms, like for instance, if you don't get enough food as a kid, you won't grow as much. Not because of your genetics, but just because you didn't get the nutrition. So it could be something like that, right? Like maybe people in the past were just getting the right nutrition to grow big and strong. But then again, given how often people starved in the past, it's probably not that.
Well, you could make the argument that those who reached adulthood in a time where farming was much more common, and if you ever met anybody who worked on a farm, they tend to be fairly well fed, but but people who outside that, like there wasn't enough food for everybody, that the people who made it to adulthood may have grown to be larger. I mean, that's just idle speculation on my part, but
yeah. All right, so here's the thing. We are only 10 minutes away from the end of this video, and I expect him to start preaching at any minute. I say we just push through. Do you guys feel okay with that?
Yeah, that's fine, yeah.
Okay.
Longer. Question: why are some names missing in the Bible?
Huh?
Well, before we get into the three missing names in the genealogy, you need to understand the Bible says be careful about endless genealogies which minister questions, okay? It's pretty tough to follow some of the genealogies. But if you look at the genealogy in Genesis and Matthew and Luke, it gives the genealogy to Christ, or part of the genealogy to Christ in Genesis. Luke, I took it and reversed the order, because instead of saying which was the child of, Luke says which was the who was the father of, or it reverses the order.
I don't actually care about this. I'm going to skip it.
And by the way, Jonathan, you're wrong about this one, and did not get a retraction or anything yet. But Canaan is one, but the Ammonites, it says in Ezekiel 21, their name would be remembered no more. We can get pretty close on these genealogies, and I think...
Oh my goodness, I don't care.
Bible.
Look, I literally don't care whether or not you can rectify the genealogies about Jesus. I just don't. Either way, if you think it's some giant problem for the Bible that the genealogies don't match one to one, I think that's a bit silly. On the other hand, if like you believe the Bible just because the genealogies match up, I mean, okay, weird, but sure. I just don't care.
Ooh.
Bent, everything okay? Are you about to get murdered?
My doorbell rang.
Ah, you can
So my
go
dog-
take care of that.
Yeah, I'll be right back.
Says in the creation, everything ate plant, never ate meat in its life.
Oh,
or
we're
something.
on to something else.
Wait,
It might have changed after the flood. Some people think it changed. Today, obviously, some animals eat 30. But we got a good reason for that.
Okay, here we go.
So when did animals become carnivorous?
Ooh.
Well,
$10 from Maya Atkinson, who says, "Thanks, Dapper. I was wondering how I was going to kill this new bottle of wine tonight." You are welcome.
I don't know anybody who knows, but two options are, today, obviously, some animals eat meat. The Bible says in the creation, everything ate plants. So when did that change? I don't know, but some people think it changed shortly after Adam's sin, because once they fell, the world began, thorns and thistles, and things might have changed right then. It might have changed after the flood, when they got off the ark and had, less food supply and more problems, and so they just, I don't know, got adapted to eating meat or something. But there's a lion that was used for years in the movie sets that refused to eat meat.
Okay, I'm just going to point out, we have literally no reason to think that the animals that obviously ate meat, the ones who couldn't possibly have chewed plants and whatnot, were ever vegetarian. It's just not. No. You need certain dentition or beak structure or something in order to correctly process plants. It's not easy to do. It's why not everything does it. And sorry, go ahead, Legs.
your GI tract as well.
Yeah.
I mean, just look at that. I'm running into Futurama where these vegans we train this lion to eat nothing but soy. It's like on the verge of death.
No, this is literally what they're talking about here.
Yeah.
Little Tyke is a lion that allegedly lived 9 years without meat. The problem is that the source for this goes back to a radical vegan book that creationists just grabbed up on. There's not very good sourcing for it. There's not very good records for it. And even in the story, it had to eat a diet of milk, I think like eggs and boiled grains, and it had to be specially prepared for it. That's not the kind of thing a lion could do in the wild.
Not only that, but that two of those three things are still animal proteins.
Yeah. So I'll tell you what. You find me the lion that can boil his potatoes in milk in the wild, and then come talk to me, Kent. When you've done that, when you found the lions that have mastered fire and dairy farming, let me know.
They just use the burning sulfur rocks.
Called Little Tyke. Lived to be, I think 9 years old, never ate meat in its life, refused. There's a lady told me they've got a whole kennel full of dogs. They raise dogs, and she said, none of our dogs eat meat, all vegetables.
Dogs are
During World War
omnivores.
II, when meat was rare in Europe,
Well, dogs are primarily carnivores, but they do have some limited ability to digest plants. However, your dog is going to be unhealthy on an all-plant diet. Do not put your dog on a vegan diet.
Absolutely.
I just give my dog food.
I mean, does it have animal protein?
I don't know. Probably.
Let's hope so.
they were
Yeah.
feeding the zoo animals in London vegetables. That's all they had. They lived on cabbage.
Yeah, for a little bit during a war, Kent. That doesn't mean you can support an entire population of lions indefinitely on tofu.
A guy sent me a videotape of 2 hours of grizzly bears in his front yard up in Canada eating grass. Just great.
Okay, couple things. Grizzly bears are omnivores. They actually get a huge portion of their calories from plants. Second, they're probably not eating that grass for nutrition. They're probably eating it as an emetic because they have an upset stomach and they want to vomit. That's why dogs do it. Why many animals do it. Because grass is an exceptionally hard to digest material. One of the things about grass is that it actually is partially composed of sharp silica crystals, which is one of the reasons that animals eat it, because it irritates their stomach and then it causes vomiting. So it takes extreme specialization to eat grass. So yeah, maximize this and go ahead.
grazing on grass for 2 hours. I don't want to edit in a 2-hour video. It gets a little boring after a while. There's these grizzly bears eating grass, okay? Yogi Bear likes to get a picnic basket if he can, but he'll settle for nuts and berries if he has to, okay? So that's why I don't think it...
Yes, bears will prefer high-fat, high-protein meals like you would find in a human picnic basket. They still get most of their... Not most necessarily, but they still get a huge portion of their calories from things like berries.
Something we can prove when it happened, but I suspect it happened before the flood came. They became carnivorous, or shortly after the flood. All right. People say, Brother Hovind, you get kind of sarcastic with the atheists, don't you? Yeah, I know, and I'm sorry. I'm working on it, but I'm not working on it too hard, okay? Here's why. We answer the skeptics. My son and I spent 8 hours answering them, and we'll probably redo this someday. All the skeptics,
probably.
there are nearly 2,000
Yeah, he and his son will have a fruitful, lifelong partnership that won't involve any lawsuits at all.
Hovind websites out there. So why do you answer them and be sarcastic? Well, in my 30-some years in the ministry, I have seen this evolution theory destroy the lives of thousands and thousands of kids.
Really?
How so?
I want you to name one, but yeah, let's hear it.
Name one. Just one.
Yeah.
So I have a hard time being patient with those who are doing the destroying, especially when you know they're lying to support their theory. We covered that on video 4. Bible talks about beware lest any man spoil you with philosophy and vain deceit in Colossians chapter 2. If I were attacking Hitler's death camps to rescue the Jews,
Nope, we're not doing Godwin's law.
The simple is made wise. Cast out the scorner, and contention shall go out.
The instant that Kent goes to Godwin's law, I'm skipping. I am done listening to Kent Hovind talk about that. It's just not a thing I'm going to do anymore.
Does seem like
It's a constant thing, and it's never useful to the conversation.
Book of 1 Kings, Elijah mocked the prophets of Baal. By the way, this is where rock music was invented. Come on, Baal, light my fire. He was singing, okay?
No, it's a pun about come on, baby, light my fire. It was a bad joke.
Do we drink?
Yeah,
I did.
Yeah, I did.
Some of you old-timers recognize that song. But here's a preacher mocking the false prophets. Oh, you say, that's not very tolerant. That's correct. Not tolerant at all. You're not supposed to be tolerant
Kent, I
of
don't
false
care
prophets,
if you're snarky.
okay? Bible talks about the stiff-necked, uncircumcised in heart, you full of all subtlety and mischief, you child of the devil, you enemy of righteousness, you pervert. I mean, the Bible's pretty strong, okay? All through the Bible, God calls people
I still
my
don't
time.
care.
I've got a radio program every day that I pay for. Hour and a half, call in with your questions or instant message.
Wait, he pays for the radio program? Normally radio shows pay you, but okay.
Message me, Dr. Dino Live, AOL Instant Message will be glad
Yeah,
to
okay.
take
Offer,
it.
so
they're like, okay, yeah.
But I'm sorry. I want to say I'm sorry I skipped so much of that, but I just don't care that Kent Hovind is snarky. It's fine to be snarky. I can be snarky. It's not a criticism I have of Kent. I'm absolutely fine with him having some snark on him. In fact, I think it makes it more fun. So, Kent Hovind, you continue to be your snarky self.
One guy said, Brother Hovind, you are the most hated man in our chat room.
Oh, no one cares.
Michigan, 80 professors refuse to debate me.
No one cares.
I'm going to plant the good dirt first. If I get time, then...
All right. I'm gonna skip around a little bit to see if he gets to a point other than people don't like me. And if he doesn't, we're gonna call it.
And I'll go work on the rock. If I don't get time, oh well. The God that created this world told us to study, to show ourselves approved unto God, and to ask Him. So we'll have an invitation here to show you how you can trust Christ as your Savior.
All right, and that's where he starts preaching. So I guess that's where we're done. All right. Well, it ended on a low note with Kent Hovind saying, people don't like me, but they should. Okay, great, Kent. I don't care. And of course, he had to bring up the National Socialists to do it.
And also admitting that his radio program does not make money for the radio station, so he has to pay them.
Yeah, that's a little bit of an oof there, but you know. All right, well, Bent, Copper Magma has new songs.
New songs. Still got to lay down vocal tracks. I think we've done 6 or 7.
Okay.
5 or 6.
Okay.
We
Oh,
redid it. So
and I want to show.
they're not complete. They're not mixed. And then there's more to come after that. We'll probably have another 15,
Wow.
10 or so. Maybe 10 more after that to do.
So keep checking on coppermagma.com. That's coppermagma1word.com. You can get free music. You can also find Copper Magma Penn's band, which is also the band that did the. It's also the opening music for my videos. So. Also, it's going to be the opening music for our Star Trek Adventures game, which is going to be airing on Top Hats Off, which you can find the link to Top Hats Off at the end of most of my videos, as well as on my channel page. It's my off-topic channel. There's gaming streams there. There's art streams there. It's whatever I want to put up on YouTube associated with Dapper Dino that doesn't fit on this channel. Also, speaking of the Klingon game, you guys in Discord won't be able to see it, but I am working on the opening credit scene for the Star Trek Adventures game. That is what you were seeing here in Blender. Yes, it is a Blender window. It is rendering right now. I'm rendering frame 862 out of 1263, I want to say. So yeah, there you go. That is it is currently rendering out. We have the song recorded for it. We have the voiceover dialogue for the beginning of it. And I just need a few more sound effects and to finish up the animation and rendering, and that will be good. And at that point, I think we're basically good to go. I do need to work with one of our players to finish off the last little tidbits of character creation. But yeah, we are looking good to go on that. As far as channel news for Dapper Dino, as opposed to Top Hats Off, Thursday is almost certainly going to be the next Creationism is Mega Catastrophe. The only way it's not going to be is if I can somehow crank out the rest of the speculative evolution stuff in that time. I have 3 down. I need 5 more to go. That's probably not happening this week, so probably not. Then Saturday, it's looking like it's going to be an open mic night. So if you want to come by, or you know any creationists who want to come by, I'm going to be giving priority to creationists. But if I don't have any creationists, I will have you on. It'll probably be a Zoom call, and what will happen is that the invitation link will simply be in the description. So if you want to join, you can just click the link in the description, come on, and I do have a 6 user limit on StreamYards. So if you are the 7th person, you won't be able to come in. But if you tell me in the chat that you want to come in, especially if you're a creationist, I will almost certainly ask someone else to step down. So there's that. I think that's pretty much it for channel news. Of course, the Tuesday after should be Kent with Bent 38, the as yet untitled Kent with Bent project, which actually doesn't sound like a bad title. The untitled Kent with Bent project.
We could try that.
It might actually end up being that. Muck Mayfair says Nuknech. I mean, to answer your question, I want to get out of here pretty soon.
I guess I have.
Yeah, Lex, what do you got?
Well, it's more like, I don't know if you want to call it a plug, but I've been wanting to cut my teeth, as it were, on more debates. So I'm open to debating largely anything, not necessarily like the range of topics that are on Dapper's channel or.
Legs, I will debate you on which bear is best.
Well, I mean, there's 2 schools of thought on that.
Exactly. We can each take one of them.
Whoa.
Keep going. Sorry.
Oh no! So if anyone's interested in either just having a discussion, or it doesn't have to be limited to like evolution or flat earthers. Although I'd be happy to discuss that. My skill set is a bit different from Dapper's, so it might be a different discussion. But I just want to kind of get into that mode of expression and thought, and because I like debating and I like hearing other people's perspectives on things. So,
all right,
debate Robert Perkinson.
Well, I mean,
I would be. I mean,
that might be a thing. And hey, if he comes by for open mic night, you come by for open mic night, and we could make that happen. Because that's at this point, I'm pretty darn sure that's what's going to happen on Saturday. Because I haven't had one of those, but I've definitely had people who've been like, "Oh, I want to come in" or whatever, and I can't always get them in. So yeah, stop by on that. Like I said, I can't have everyone in at the same time, but we can have like a rotating panel for a few hours. I think that's it. I want to say thank you to everyone who stopped by. Please make sure that you like the video and subscribe. I also want to give a special thank you to everyone who super chatted, because you guys help me make this something that I can hopefully keep doing for the indefinite future. That's the goal. The goal is to get to the point where this is something where I can I can keep doing this as my job essentially, because this is what I really like to do is doing scientific discussions, debates, debunks, all that stuff, and hanging out with you guys. So in particular, that is Robert Berkinson, Ian Chen, Bent Hoven, Scott Duke, Dave Delafiore, Vandellia 1998, Mothra J, and Mai Atkinson. I want to give a special thank you to all of you. I also want to give a special thank you to all my channel members and patrons. If you want to help support the channel that way, feel free. But here is a quick video explaining all of that anyway. Thanks for watching, but before you go, I'd like to take a minute to say thank you to my patrons and channel members on YouTube. They help me make this channel possible, and without them, I couldn't keep going. Specifically, I want to thank my $20 and above patrons, Bent Hovind, Ian Chen, Sphincter of Doom, Chris Love, Henry Hutanen, and Bob Knob. If you'd like to join the channel or become a patron, links are in the description, and if that's not right for you, but you want some other way to help out, there's also an Amazon wishlist, as well as a Teespring store where you can get Dapper Dino merchandise. If none of that works for you, just liking and sharing this video really helps out. I'm the Dapper Dinosaur.